What's up, bros? Welcome to another Brograph Brocast. I'm your host, Matt Milstead, and Dave is out of town. He is in Iceland this week, and from his Twitter feed and Facebook feed, it looks like he's having a blast. And so joining me today is my very dear friend.
So many deers.
Mr. David Ariev.
David, are you gonna do a podcast today?
I hope so. I hope it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Now, because Dave is out of town, I'm running the show. So it's a little nerve-wracking. It's my first real show that I've done, without the assistance of Dave. Dave, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but Dave is kind of like, he's the muscle. He's the organizational guy.
He's got his stuff together.
Yeah, and then I'm here for like constant
I'm
humor.
not going to help you at all. Yeah. Yeah.
So we got a lot on our lot of notes this week. We got a lot of stuff we want to go over, and so really excited. So let's start off with the week. How was your week?
It was
David?
Pretty good. Pretty kind of boring. Kind of like, I mean,
I would have killed for a boring week.
I mean, it was nice. How about you?
It was very, very busy.
Yeah.
Dave was out of town this week, so
everything.
basically, handling everything. Luckily, we didn't get a whole bunch of backlash from the plugin and stuff. We actually only had one person give us any sort of bug for the plugin, and so it's with the psych wall, the site creator, and so if you guys are creating the psych and then you try and rotate it, it gets all wonky and distorted and stuff. So the biggest workaround for that we found up until Dave can get this fixed. I'm hoping this week, fingers crossed. Dave, if you're listening to this on the plane from Iceland to here, you got 1 week.
Nice.
Just turn it into what is it called when you basically make everything one thing, or compress and delete, or whatever it's called. Connect and delete. Yeah. If you just connect and delete, you won't have the same ability in order to change everything. So make sure you get it where you want it. So, but that's right now, that's the workaround.
So explain to me one more time. So as you rotate it, it kind of distorts in a weird way.
Yeah. Because we've got basically a spline, and we're extruding that spline. And it's got a bend deformer on it,
Those
I
bend
deformers. We've got the wrong, I guess we just need to parent the bend deformer or something.
Gotcha.
So anyway, cool. That's in the works. And that was actually the only bug that we've gotten so far that we've been able to replicate, and I was able to replicate
that other one was just crazy
to
click it and it disappears thing. I couldn't replicate that at all.
I don't even know. I don't know what to do. He was lucky that he was able to find a workaround for that. So hopefully once we release an update or a 0.01 update or something like that, some of these problems will go away. I don't know. So we hit our highest numbers again.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's been 2 weeks or 2 months in a row where every week we've just hit more and more numbers, and last week we had the highest numbers ever, and it feels good.
That's
bro.
Awesome. Yeah,
feels good.
I'm happy for you guys.
So Dave's out of town, so I've been having to handle all the big workload and stuff, and man, I was stressing because yesterday was my anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary! I didn't know that. It's awesome.
Thanks. How many years? 7 years.
Oh my god, it's a lot.
7 years yesterday.
Yeah.
So
actually, I just had my 5-year anniversary a week ago. So, though I mean, it's not as legit as it's not the marriage anniversary. This is the
it's still legit. Yeah, it's still legit.
We've been dating / engaged / whatever for 5 years, kind of anniversary.
You've been engaged for 5 years?
It's only been a year and a half now, or about that time. Yeah.
Is she not, tapping her?
She is. It's less than a year until the wedding, but yeah.
Oh, you even know
when is it? We do.
When's
it's July 2nd, 2017, I guess. Yeah. 2035. No. We have a place picked out. We're doing like this kind of all-in-one restaurant in Charlottesville that we really like, called The Local. Cool. And yeah, it's cool because like they bundle like the food and all the drink and all that stuff together, and you don't it's just a lot more convenient, and it's gonna be nice. Yeah.
Very cool. So Dave was out of town. I had to handle a bunch of stuff, and like I had one client who gave me like a really big project like the Friday before he left.
Was this the carabiner project or no? Okay.
Yeah.
Carabiner nightmare.
So it's like this super technical project, and big shout out to Dan Pierce, who he didn't physically help me with this project, but like I keep on, every time I'm modeling now, I always go back to his NAB presentation because it was so good, and we had created logos a million times, always just, Illustrator file, extrude it, do whatever, put the fillet caps and stuff. But his was all about like real modeling and making the stuff like really clean, geometry and stuff. And so like I had to create this carabiner, and I had to do the inset of the carabiner, And so that was the main reason I wanted to use his like kind of presentation as like a guide for that, is because I needed it to be super clean, and I needed to be able to do that inset, and man, it worked great. And I'll tell you, like, that is go back to the NAB presentations. I know Cineversity has it. I know Grayscale has it. And watch his Dan Pierce's. It's so awesome.
I'm an idiot at modeling, but I'm trying to get better. And I've been slowly watching these subdivision, tutorials on Vimeo that I think are really good. I can't remember the guy who does those, but I'll look that up as we're talking. But can you explain to me a little bit how are you using the polygon pen on that, and like kind of...
So what I did, and it's so fun, like when I'm modeling or texturing or something, it's amazing how convenient a scanner or my phone camera is, because I'll take a picture of it or I'll scan it or something so that I've got the general shape, and I'll use the polygon pen in order to just like basically if you go into polygon mode with a polygon pen and you just kind of brush it around, it will create like planes, connected planes all the way across, and then I extrude that with caps so that I've got an extruded version, and then I can take like my knife or my slide tool and just slide like an edge at a time in order to get these really clean cuts. Or I'll throw it in a subdivision surface and then figure out where I need to make the cuts in order to...
And then you're in quads the whole time because you're just drawing with polygons at that point, right? That's awesome. Totally. Yeah, so the guy who I've been watching his tutorials gradually is named Shane Benson. And yeah, he's got a bunch of, like a whole series on sub-D modeling in Cinema 4D, like 17 parts or something. So I've been every night before I go to bed trying to like down one of those, like just like by diffusion and osmosis, like learn something at every night or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you dream about polygon modeling?
I don't know.
And
well,
stuff?
No. So I used to have like nightmares about, I'm in class again, or I've taken, there's this class that I haven't, signed up for, and I can't find the classroom and all that kind of stuff, all of those horrible nightmares, like, didn't know there was a math exam. Now I just have DIT nightmares. So for those of you that don't know, DIT is Digital Imaging Technician, and it's one of the jobs that I do. So like this is on-set data collection where you're bringing in all of the footage and you're duplicating it to multiple drives, and you're doing on-set color. And I've got this whole like, cart, this whole setup. And so once in a while I have like one of these DIT jobs, but like it's just starting to suck because like most of my jobs are visual effects, compositing, Brograph, like these computer geeky things, and then once in a while I'm like out in the field with all of these awesome camera people and like the production supervisors over my shoulder going like, well, Ian Edwards can do this whole job in 20 minutes, why can't you do this in 20 minutes? I'm like, I don't know, I only do this once in a while, and like
That's ridiculous.
I mean, actually, the real answer I gave was, well, Ian Edwards does this every single day, and he costs twice the price of me. So, you know, and I'm like, do you need a rush job? Like, and she's like, well, no. I'm like, okay, well, then, you know.
Are they like just giving you crap?
There are
or
some
are
people.
They like seriously
no,
pissed?
she was just giving me crap, but like, she was basically saying, I'm not as professional as this other dude. I'm like, well, I'm a freaking generalist. I don't do this every single day of my life. Like, there are other people that are DITs on set every single day, you know, and I don't know. It's just so weird. But anyway, so my nightmares are that I've deleted like all of day 2's footage or something, and my career is over, and everyone hates me on set, and I've just screwed the pooch, you know, royally, and everything's just, you know. So yeah, those are my, you know, latest nightmares.
Those are your nightmares. That's funny. And I normally, like, if I spend too much time modeling, I will. I've had a few espresso nightmares.
Oh, really?
You know, where I'll have to
so
try and
little
connect some espresso links and stuff. And yeah, because honestly, if you've messed a lot with espresso, sometimes it can actually be a literal nightmare.
Believe you. Yeah, like that whole web of tanglement, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's pretty crazy. So, yeah. So I had the carabiner one, which was fun. And so, like, he wanted it done by the end of last week. But then he kept on calling me for like little like half day shoots and stuff. He's like, "Are you available?" I'm like, "Well, your stuff is the stuff that I'm working on.
Yeah,
so
totally. Like,
if you're cool with pushing it back, then totally, yeah,
he's
all
like,
right."
No, I don't understand that at all. Like,
I know, and so like, I feel bad because like I got it to him. You know, it was technically only like 2 days of work, but it was spanned over like 4 days or something, you know, because I could only work half day here, half day there. And so I got him like one of the 3 videos that he wanted. And so like I sent it to him, and this is what I've been doing this week.
Yeah.
Because Dave's out of town and I don't need like a whole lot of workload on me. So I'm emailing it to the people and saying, "Here it is. Let me know what you think." And I'm totally putting it in their corner.
They're like, this is the bare minimum thing that I have to do. And
absolutely.
Now you decide, client.
Let me know if this is good, and I'll start working on the rest. You know? So that's what I did so that I could have, like, you know, I wanted to make sure that I could have yesterday off because it was my anniversary and stuff, and, you know, having fun, and we went and got massages, like 90-minute massages.
That sounds great.
Went to dinner. Yeah, it was so great.
That's the frustration. Like, I love freelancing, but the frustration is trying to, like, carve out time. Like, I want to take a vacation this summer sometime with Emma. Like, it's something that we've basically never done. We've gone to, like, little bed and breakfast things here and there, but yeah, I mean, there's always more work that comes up or some reason that we don't do it. And so, yeah, it's just a matter of like saying, this is the week we're going on vacation. Like Dave did it. He did it. He went to Iceland.
Well, you know, we're kind of lucky because we've got
you guys, exactly. You know? And that's the thing.
So it's like the work, one of our, Dave and I's big clients, you know, we both have worked for in the past, so they've got a good relationship with both of us. So if they need something, we're good on sending it to either one of us.
And that's the thing that I'm finding is as I get more into this freelancing thing, I guess I've only been doing it for a year and a half now, coming up on 2 years. The more that I connect with people like you guys, the more I can, you know, the bigger network you have, the more you can pass off work, like, because stuff comes in, you know, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this, but I don't want to lose this client, you know, or I just get too loaded down, or I need to clear out my schedule for a specific thing. Like with this Zika job, I had to shuffle everything around because the Zika job, you know, is like, it was literally like 10 times, you know, the budget of one of these other jobs that I had, and like I just had to clear off my whole calendar. But it was pretty tricky because like this other client was like kind of angry about me passing it off to another person or whatever, and they were like, you know,
the Zika job or
the other job. Like, even though it was
the one that I'm doing,
not that one. That's another job. So yeah, I had to pass off like three jobs to get the Zika thing to happen. One of them, the clients were like, sure, 3 weeks, you know, you want to push this job 3 weeks? We don't care. I'm like, oh, that's great. You know, but then this other client was like, we are midstream on this. And like, they had never talked to me about a deadline at all. Like I hadn't, like, this was also my bad. This was totally my bad for not being like, what's the timeline on this one? You know, when do we need to deliver this by? So there was just the
That's
assumption.
always like my first question.
Even though I should know all these things, I'm just such an idiot sometimes. But, and I hadn't written up a contract with these guys, so, this job is ending up just, almost costing me money or whatever, but it's
that
whatever.
Sucks.
Like you got to shuffle stuff around to be able to do the really good, high paying, job or whatever. But, yeah. Anyway, they're okay now. Like my other friend, like totally rocked it. Like did it in a much faster time than I did. But they're still like, we believe that it took longer because of this and blah blah. Anyway, it's whatever.
Did you take a little bit of cut from it?
How do you mean?
Like pay your guy who you're outsourcing it for a little bit less than what you were getting paid?
No, I didn't. I know. I need. That's the yeah.
Matt, it's all right. You're doing that
Matt's
with us, and that was my idea.
Yeah,
so,
kickbacks. I'm like,
the Matt Milstead way of
what
doing
are those?
Stuff.
That's such a great idea.
Yeah. So I did that job, and I had to push it. And so this other job that I had to do, basically, this was another one of the ones where I got it done. So I had to learn. Dave was doing. Him and I were working on one like little, 8-second animation together. I had to build a backyard,
right?
And build, like I talked about it last week, how I had to sculpt this big rock and stuff like that, and with a big slide on it, and it was a big pool. And then he wanted to add what are those things called? The big wooden things in your backyard.
A fence.
No. That would be too simple.
I'm pretty sure it's a fence.
No, the pergola. Had to build a pergola.
I've never heard that word in my life. Yeah.
Really?
How do you spell that?
It's probably like a southern thing.
Yeah. Well, I live in Virginia, which is technically southern, but you guys live in Texas, so that's legit southern.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we are legit southern.
What's it? Okay, pergola. It sounds like a percolator.
Pergola.
Oh, okay, so it's like an over. Yeah, okay. I know what those are, like visually. Yeah. Okay.
So I had to build a pergola, and then he wanted to add like an outdoor kitchen and stuff, and we went through like 2 or 3 rounds of changes and stuff. So then he sent me all of his changes, and I was like, all right, cool. So Dave was handling the X particles part of this, because we had to have running water off the rock and stuff like that. So he got me the project, and then when I got it, I was like, I don't know, this is okay. But then he didn't actually put some of the particles where I needed them to flow like a waterfall, and now he's out of town.
Yeah.
So I had to learn X particles this week, which was fun.
Yeah, I mean, X particles is really cool. But
yeah,
I mean,
I use the Hello Lux tutorials.
What I was gonna say, yeah,
on doing water and stuff, and I kind of got my head wrapped around it. Like once you, I was actually really surprised how quick I was able to pick it up. Not saying that I'm a badass or anything.
You're a badass,
but
dude.
Like. X particles is surprisingly easy to understand once you get the concept.
It's so intuitive. It fits in Cinema's, kind of system so well. It feels just like an add-on, like an expansion pack to Cinema 4D.
Yeah. And so like I ended up, I probably spent all day, learning X particles and getting it flowing right. And I was originally going to use Houdini because we bought copies of Houdini for each of us. But it's like, Houdini is such a monster. Yeah. And I'd rather work entirely. This is one reason why I'm really excited about RealFlow and like their new plugin specifically for Cinema 4D, because I want it to work within Cinema 4D and not have to go to an external program.
I mean, that's why I love Octane.
I'm pretty sure that's
why I love all my plugins. I want them to just live inside, Cinema 4D. And like I went through like a few years ago, I went through like a Vue kick. Do you know that program Vue? VUE. It's terrible. Don't ever
familiar.
Use it. It was horrendous. But
I think someone like tweeted at us or said something on one of our tutorials this week.
It's like for a while it was the standard for generating like trees and like environments, digital environments and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it even had like an integrated Cinema 4D plugin, but it was like so hard to use. But you couldn't see anything that was going on. Like you couldn't see your objects. There were no like really good previews. And so while they tried to like integrate it with Cinema, it felt so clunky and it was just impossible, and the render times were like an hour per frame kind of thing, and I gave up at some point. Like, I made a successful field of clouds in it once, you know, and like made a few cool like experiments with it, but you know, I just haven't found like a really good environment, you know, generator since or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. You got all the polygon stuff. Good for trees.
Yeah, that's true. Those pre-cut trees are pretty sweet.
Yeah, I use those in my outdoor scene.
Yeah.
So I had to learn X particles. I got that. I ended up getting it done, you know, and rendering out my stuff, and I thought it looked pretty good. It didn't look as great as it could have been had I spent more time on it, but it was fine. So whatever. I mean, it was 3 hours, 2.5 hours of caching the files.
Right.
It's like, I don't want to deal with that again. I'm not going to do that again.
You had you didn't have it in either fluid system, but then did you change that? You didn't change that? Okay, cool.
No.
That's awesome.
I wasn't going to go back and re-render because it was a 12-hour render. Still in Octane, you know, it was a 12-hour render. Totally. And then I had to, like, not only had to do that, I also had to render a nighttime scene as well.
Oh, wow.
So, like, you know, like, because it was going from nothing in the backyard to this, you know, rock slide, pergola, kitchen, everything. You know, it's transitioning like I just did a really long wipe.
Cool.
You know? And then once it gets stationary at the end of the camera move, then it dissolves into a nighttime scene, you know? So.
Totally.
Anyway, I got to learn X particles and it's really cool. So, but the sucky part was, Dave and I have the same, like, basically only one of us can use the X particles.
Oh yeah, because it's a floating. Do you guys have a floating license or a different?
No, it's node locked.
Okay.
You know, and so we've got the same serial and stuff. Cool. So I was rendering on his computer while he's out of town because I've got his team viewer information, you know, and so I'm rendering on it, you know, and then his team viewer crashes.
That sucks.
And so, but it left his X Particles Cinema 4D project open rendering. And so I got the whole render out. But then if I needed to make changes, I wouldn't even have the chance because I couldn't open X Particles again.
That sounds miserable.
Oh yeah, it was pretty miserable. So I was lucky. What I ended up doing is just sending it to the client saying, hey, check it out whenever you get a chance, blah, 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 let me know. And then he texted me back and said, I'm out of the office right now, but I'll check it as soon as I get back. And that was due Friday, and I sent it out Tuesday. He hasn't text messaged me or anything, so I'm assuming it's good.
Cool.
Yeah, hasn't said anything, and I wasn't going to push it and say, hey, so how'd that look? You know, because I knew I was going to get kicked back.
Totally. Don't even bother. Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, I got all my projects done, got to have a wonderful, you know, night out with my wife, who is the love of my life, and we had a wonderful 7-year anniversary.
That's adorable and
90-minute massage. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Sweet. I have never in my life had a 90-minute massage. Yeah.
It was...
Sounds great.
There's this... It's called the Foot Palace, just down the street from us. And it is like a 60-minute full body and then 30-minute foot.
Sweet.
You know? And like... Oh,
did you guys do yours side by side? Is that how that works? Okay, yeah, cool. That's cute.
It's so ridiculous.
That's awesome.
They'd leave and then we'd hold hands.
Cool. Oh, that's like awesome. That. That's great.
Yeah. So that was fun. We went and saw Finding Dory.
Oh, that's the Finding Nemo sequel.
Yeah.
Was it good?
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty good.
I'm gonna look up.
You know, I liked it. You know, and
I'm
it's
a review junkie.
Yeah, crazy good reviews.
Oh, really? Okay, great.
And so it's like 95 or 96%.
Was it Zootopia
Rotten Tomatoes.
good?
Man, I love. You know what? Since it came out, and my kid loves it. He loves Zootopia.
I love Zootopia.
He always says he wants to watch Fox and Bunny. You know, and the more and more I watch it, the more and more I realize how much I absolutely love Zootopia.
Yeah, it's great.
Like, I thought that not Wreck-It Ralph. What was the one that was right before Zootopia? It might have been the Pixar movie.
Oh, it was the Pixar movie. It was crap.
Maybe it was Big Hero 6.
No.
Big Hero 6, I absolutely love Big Hero 6.
Big Hero 6 is
and
awesome.
I think that is a fantastic movie. But the more and more I watch Zootopia, the more and more I realize how fantastic that is of a movie that is.
Yeah.
And I also realized I did not see any reptiles or amphibians in the movie. It's all mammals. Yeah, watch it again.
I will.
I don't think you'll see any.
The photorealism of it just like blew my mind. Like the animation too, like some of those expressions that they got were so like human. It's just absurd. And
Absolutely.
It wasn't, I don't think it was any motion capture or whatever. It was just really incredibly good animators. And then of course, they've got these sims to make like the fat bags on certain people, certain characters like move around in awesome ways. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really upset that I'm blanking on that Pixar film because that was my
okay. What was
favorite,
the one that came out just before that?
That was my favorite Pixar film ever, perhaps. The one about the memory
Oh, Inside Out.
That is what I'm trying to say. Okay.
Inside Out was great. Inside Out was great, even though it was straight up stolen from Herman's Head.
Herman's Head.
You don't remember Herman's Head? Oh my gosh. So Herman's Head was a show. It would come on like right after The Simpsons, and it was basically this guy named Herman, and it wasn't a cartoon, it was a live action. And, they would go into this guy's head and he had like 5 different people who were all controlling his emotions, who were all different emotions.
That's hilarious. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look it up.
I will.
I don't know if it was like 1 season or 2, but it was on Fox or something right after The Simpsons.
Cool.
And had the girl who played Lisa in it.
No way. Cool.
Anyway.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, Inside Out was great. But so one thing, Finding Dory, so it hit new opening weekend record for an animated film, like $126 or $136 million. It was the largest Pixar opening, and it was the biggest PG rated opening of all time.
Cool.
And so the octopus that's in the movie, played by Ed O'Neill, I think his name is, the guy who played Married with Children, Al Bundy.
Okay.
He's the voice. Cool. And that octopus, I've got it in the show notes. There's a video where they talk about like developing it. It took them 2 years to get like everything down with the movements.
Holy
and
crap.
like how we moved.
How long was the film in production?
I don't know. Maybe it was 6 months. I think it was 6 months of like actual like coding and figuring out how like the octopus moved and stuff in order to get him to move right. But man, he did a great job. That it looked super clean, and the short that they had at the beginning of Finding Dory. Have you seen like any?
No,
previews
I haven't.
Or anything?
I love the shorts.
It is gorgeous.
I believe you.
It is absolutely gorgeous, and like it is so realistic.
Yeah,
looking.
I mean, Pixar, they use those shorts as like a way to test run like new rendering engines,
Is that true?
They use them as like a playground for like, they just kind of they don't expect to make any money on it, but they're like, hey, other team, go and figure out this new stuff so that we can use it, as kind of R&D for our bigger films. So it's kind of like a research and development thing where did you ever see the Blue Umbrella one? I don't know if that's the right.
The Blue Umbrella.
I think that was one of the first ones where they used Arnold. Let's see. Yeah.
Oh, really? You should really?
Yeah.
Because I thought they
only used Renderman. No, for that they used Arnold. And that one is beautiful too.
Check out this clip that I just sent you. This is a clip from the short is called Piper. Oh my gosh, Kat.
Yeah, my dogs are also like freaking me out, and like the power just randomly fluctuated. And my battery backup was like. It's like,
good. You're still recording,
yeah,
right?
let me just double check that, but I'm pretty sure like the computer's alive. That's a good tip for all you listeners. Get a battery backup. Yeah.
I can't even tell you how many times my computer is just crapped out because I need a battery backup.
This clip from Pixar's new short film Piper will help you finally forget about lava. Okay. Well, lava.
Yeah, lava sucked.
Lava was beautiful.
I hate lava.
It was beautiful to look at.
No.
I loved it for the way it looked. No.
No.
I was charmed by lava.
No.
I was charmed by lava. Someone to lava.
I hated lava. I thought lava was actually, besides the sheep singing one that they did a long time ago, I hated lava more than any other film or short film that they had done. I thought it was so hokey.
I went to.
It didn't have the cute, like, make me want to cry cuteness that most Pixar.
What's your favorite?
Shorts
What's your favorite
have.
of those of the Pixar shorts?
The day and night one.
I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
that one's probably my favorite because it was so different.
My favorite.
than every other one.
I think mine is La Luna. Do you know?
Yeah, La Luna was so
That was
good.
so awesome.
That was such a good one. But this new short is like, it's so realistic looking. And it's really cute.
Yeah. I see this clip. It's insane. Like the level of detail on the animation and the feathers and water.
And there's like the sand, like little tiny grains of sand and stuff. And one thing I loved about it, like they hardcore played with depth of field.
Yeah, it's very shallow.
Like the depth of field is just absolutely incredible. Because they do this super, super shallow depth of field, all throughout the.
Well, this will go in the show notes for sure. But watching this kind of stuff, it's so frustrating as a solo artist because you will never get to this level. You maybe if you like dedicate, I mean, you have to specialize. You would have to specialize to get to this level. You could dedicate your whole life to animating and get to this level as an animator or a lighter or a renderer or whatever. But yeah, as a generalist, you're going to be reaching for that Pixar thing the whole time and you're never quite going to get there. But I've kind of learned to accept that. And what I really get excited about is seeing other solo artists and what they've done. Like seeing Beeple's stuff, seeing Raoul Marx's stuff. I don't know if you know.
Dude, your whole
NAB.
Harry Star Potter stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like the fact that you did that all yourself, man, that was awesome.
But I just feel like I'm cheating for that because like it's just using Octane.
You're a solo artist, you kind of have to.
Yeah, exactly. It's taking those shortcuts to try to make something look
That's why I love Octane.
That's why I love Octane
so
too.
Easy.
Like I'm always looking for these things that are going to let me cheat basically. Like my newest one that we're going to talk about later on the show is real displacement. And I'm going to totally excited about getting further into that, but with the Harry Star Potter thing, I don't even know what it's called. Harry Star Potter. It's officially Harry Sky Potter, but I think I just keep referring to it as Harry Star Potter because I'm an idiot and I didn't listen to the guy who created the name. But yeah, like that was just using displacements and like all of these just like 3 different complex textures to drive displacements and emission in Octane, using what Octane's already good at. But I mean, that was what my second half of my NAB presentation was about, was like basically cheating complexity for cheap or whatever. Yeah.
Hey, it works, it came out looking really good.
Thanks, man.
And that's really all that matters.
Yeah, that's true.
Is in the end, does it look good?
But it's not, Pixar good. Like any one of the things in it, there's.
Yeah, but they're spending so much time.
That's what
on
I mean.
it. Like a ridiculous amount of time, and they can throw as many people at it as they want.
Yeah, exactly. So I have to remind myself they've got hundreds of artists at any given time working on this stuff. But yeah, I mean, there are some people, like I think Beeple is one of them, but there's the guy that I think you guys mentioned him several shows back. I brought up this this short film called Leviathan, and
that one was
the guy
awesome.
who made that. That was a solo artist. And that is like
but
incredibly.
Didn't you say it took him
It took him a year.
Yeah.
So sometimes there are these like savants, right, that like take a whole year, and I don't know how they do it. Whether they pick at it every day, the discipline is insane. And people that talk about these things are like, well, for a whole year straight, I woke up and for 15 hours a day did this thing, and then like I wouldn't go to bed until I solved this problem. And I'm like, how? But you don't have a life. How do you do that?
Yeah,
and
but
where
like,
do you get the money to do that? Like he obviously was.
Here's the thing. Yeah. Like if I won the lottery,
right? That's what you do.
We got a really big project. Actually, if I won the lottery, I would start my own animation studio in a heartbeat. Right. That has always been my dream, and it always will be my dream. Animation studio where I can make my own cartoons and stuff like that, or my own post-production house. That's what it is. But if we got a big enough job, like say $1 million job that we were able to knock out in 6 months, and then have like excess money of $500,000, where we didn't really have to work over the next year. Heck, I'd say let's focus on one project. And maybe that's what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I want to do. I like those longer, projects that allow me to really sink in and just detail the crap out of the imagery, just like really take it as far as it possibly can go, and plus the shot in every single, direction or whatever. And just like sit there and learn. Like I want to learn about, making the sand really sandy. I want to learn about, the fluids and the whatever goes into the shot. I would love to just like spend a week on every single part of it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, also not to mention now with Disney owning Pixar, you've got all of Disney's, like, all the tricks in their basket that you can use as well. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Screw those guys.
I've got a Pixar-esque short that I've always wanted to do.
Sweet.
I wrote it a long time ago, and it was funny. Like when Dave and I were working together the first time around at that old company, we were like, "Dude, we should win an Oscar. Let's try and win an Oscar." And so I wrote this little short based on like an idea that I had. That it was a short based on a story I was trying to tell my wife, to try and write, because she's an English major and she's a librarian. I'd keep on telling her to write, kids stories and stuff like that, because she loves that stuff.
Totally.
But she wouldn't take my idea. She hated it.
That's sad. What's your idea?
So
I think you've told me this before, but
it's called Little Bigfoot.
Little Bigfoot. Okay.
Yeah. So it's about a kid who befriends a little Bigfoot.
Sounds
like a kid version of Bigfoot.
Sounds adorable.
It is adorable.
That's great.
And there's no dialogue. It's all like music driven
awesome.
and stuff like that. So anyway.
Sounds like a Pixar short in the making.
I know, right? And as long as it makes you cry in the end, that's all that matters.
Totally. Like the first 10 minutes of Up, like just totally make you cry every time.
Dude, that and James and the Giant Peach. That one's really hard to get through.
I haven't seen that in a really long time. I should go back and watch that.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, that kid goes through so much crap. Yeah. And you're just like, oh, this is painful to watch. Can we just get to the Giant Peach part?
Yeah. Totally.
So, where were we?
I don't know. I mean,
we're talking about.
I don't know.
Anyway, Pixar's new movie is really good. Go see it.
That's the takeaway from all of that ramble.
Yeah. Finding Dory was really good, and I liked it. And it was really cute, and, the octopus was cool.
Totally.
So
yeah.
I had a chance. So with this project I was working on this week, I had to do some rope stuff.
Oh, cool.
Like I had to create ropes and stuff like that, and stuff that
dynamics
would move.
And stuff, or
yeah, basically.
Cool.
So I had never done it before, but I did like a tutorial on IK splines.
Sweet.
And so, like, because I had the two carabiners at each end, and I wanted them to move like a rope would move. And so I attached a spline, and on the ends of the splines, I connected those using IK splines, and so it worked really well.
Sweet.
Yeah. So check out IK splines. It's a really good way to make rope. No, I guess.
I guess.
Well, because I'd do the splines, and I'd animate the splines with the IK spline, and then I would do a sweep NURBS of the. It's not called NURBS anymore, I don't think. Just a sweep.
We can see, but that means that you're a pro. When people say NURBS, right? They've been in cinema long enough to know that these things were called NURBS. And if you're really geeky, you know what NURBS stands for. And I don't even know. Do I know it?
I don't know.
It's
what
like
NURBS.
Not something.
I would believe that you know what NURBS stand
Wait,
like.
did you say you would believe that I know it?
Oh yeah, totally. You're very smart.
No, I don't. This stuff all like I learn it and then it like falls out of my brain.
Dude, weren't you a neuroscientist or something?
Yeah, that sounds fancy, but I studied. Okay, so yes, I have a master's degree in neuroscience. It means nothing. I was a fraud. I hated it. It's true. I don't know. I don't even know. Like, those people wanted to like hang out and talk biology and like
that you could you could just completely change your major like that.
It's a.
Do your parents give you a look when
The reason that I kept doing neuroscience was kind of pressure from my parents to some degree. I mean, like that, and I thought that it was, I thought that it was cool. It was like the one, academic subject that I kind of connected with. It was fun learning about the brain. I started in biology and then I switched to neuroscience in undergrad. And then I was like, hey, undergrad, I guess the next logical step is grad school. And, and the whole time in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I really enjoy filmmaking, but my parents kind of convinced me that, to some degree, like that it's a safer route to go with academia, that it's like, I mean, you're going to be a...
Dude, I've got tons of student loans just because I keep on being told, bachelor's degree or master's degree will do you some more. I have twice as much student loans as my wife, who has a master's degree, and I have 2 associate's degrees.
Totally. Anyway, it doesn't mean that I was smart. It actually means that I was avoidant and kind of dumb. Like, I didn't go for... It took me a long time to go for what I really wanted to do. And, like, ultimately, if I had stayed in biology, I would have failed massively. It would have been like pulling teeth, right? It became like pulling teeth. I almost failed several times. And it's kind of a miracle that I, got out with, gracefully or whatever, that I got out, with that master's degree. I was in the PhD program and I switched down to the master's, but there were summers there where I was supposed to be working in the lab for 40 hours a week and I was coming in for like 5 or 10. Like, I was completely like burned out on it, not wanting to do it, like just like not having a clue.
Is there ever any part of you that's like, oh, I missed that part of neuroscience?
0%. Like, people are like, well, why don't you go into scientific visualization? Like, those guys at NAB that were doing this, the cool, I don't know, like micron level,
like the viruses, the
ATP walking, all of those kinds of things.
Dude, the ATP walking
pretty sweet.
Animation, I've seen that all over the place. It's awesome. Yeah. I think I actually saw that one in my biology class when I was taking it.
Totally. There was like the inner life of the cell thing from these Harvard guys that looked really, really cool, like super photorealistic looking, and that stuff is definitely cool, but I've kind of just like pushed that entire world away with a 10-foot pole, but and I've like dropped all that information out of my brain, and now I'm just like filling it with filmmaking and motion graphics and visual effects.
See, I was trying to push motion graphics and filmmaking and everything away,
right,
and trying to go into biology, but man, I hit that chemistry class.
Oh yeah,
and I was like,
organic
I
chemistry?
just can't do this.
Was it orgo?
No, I think it was just regular chemistry.
Cool.
That and so I was going to plan on going into medicine, So I get to chemistry and I'm just like, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I can't make sense of this. This is really hard.
It is really hard. Yeah.
And so then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll go into computer programming. Right. Because I was looking for something that just paid a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, that is the thing.
Like an idiot.
That's the thing that, like, it doesn't seem like a viable solution to become an artist, right? You're just, from the outside, I assume that mean I was going to be poor and starving and it was never going to work and it wasn't going to be viable.
Yeah, totally.
And so it took, taking myself seriously and then just, committing to learning this stuff, and forging my own path, and it's kind of like diving into the unknown to some degree, but yeah, it so far has worked out pretty well.
I was gonna go. I did I don't know, like 2.5 years, or part-time years, of computer programming.
Oh, really?
And then I got to I know a little bit of C++.
Right. Yeah.
That's totally. Not it. And then I got to physics.
Yep.
And
that one's real hard too.
I'm out.
Yeah, I hate that.
I'm going back into motion graphics and filmmaking.
Yeah.
So then I went to college again for a third different time, changing my major. I was going to do emerging media and communications. I figured, because, my mother-in-law, I love her. She is an amazing person. But she really pushes education on all of her kids, right. Every single one of them, with the exception of one, has a master's degree. Right. And so, it's
not necessarily a bad thing.
I know it's great. Yeah. It's great. Having a master's degree is great.
At some point it can...
And education is great.
Right, but at some point it can go too far and can give you like a complex, like, I have to stay in academia, I have to have all of these degrees and stuff, and that's not necessarily the world that we all need to live in anymore, especially if you're doing filmmaking stuff. Like, it is not... You don't need to go to film school. It's literally what you've done and, the network that you've built for yourself,
Network is the biggest important part. Yeah. And so, like, I kept on being like, well, I need to get my bachelor's degree. And finally I was just like, I was looking at the average pay scale of someone within the industry that I was studying, and then I was looking at the average pay scale of what I was getting, or I looked at what I was getting paid. I'm like, I'm already making more money than what the average pay scale is for the degree that I'm getting for. I'm out.
Totally.
And then, my wife wanted to go back to school, and I'm just like, you do it. You get your master's degree, you're good. You can have your mom hate me all she wants and pester me, but it's fine.
Totally.
So I'll just be successful. That's all
totally.
So,
the one last thing I was going to say is that, I feel like, I don't know, this is not some kind of sage advice or whatever, but, when I was talking to all these biology people, like, they kept telling me, like, you have to love it. You have to love it if you're going to do it. If you're going to be a professor, or you're going to, there are so many med students or whatever that are miserable, right? They're doing it because their parents are putting them through this program, and they feel obligated to, or whatever. They're pressuring themselves to do it. And they don't love it. And they're going to eventually either be failed doctors, or they're going to be just miserable doctors hating their lives. And like, I feel like, this is kind of an ideological or optimistic way to look at things, but if you can find the thing that you really love to do, hopefully there's a way to make that into your life work or whatever,
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm like so happy that I'm in motion graphics and filmmaking and visual effects. Like, it's not as if it's not stressful and hard and like incredibly challenging, but it's addictive. Like, I'm addicted to doing this, and it's my way of having fun is sitting back and watching tutorials. And just like those biologists, like the ones that were really into it, their way of having fun was reading scientific papers, right? They would just go home every night and they would read these things that to me were horrendous and burned my eyes, right? But yeah, they loved doing that. And I feel like in an ideal world, everybody would find the thing that they love to do and then make money doing that, Ideal. For some things, like if you want to be in the NBA, there's not a whole lot of people that are in the NBA, right? So your chances are not going to be super great. But with this field, with motion graphics, with visual effects, with filmmaking in general, it's a pretty big field, and there's always work. There's always the need for graphics, and that's just expanding more and more. People need more and more graphics and visuals and stuff.
Yeah. Especially, I want to say a few years ago, we were in a really scary place when everything was moving over to online, And so like there wasn't a lot of online advertising and online videos and stuff, because really the internet couldn't handle it, and our speeds weren't really that fast and stuff. And so, but like a lot of people were getting rid of cable, and it's like the movie industry was scared to go anywhere. TV industry was okay, but there was no online advertising. And since like internet speeds and everything have gotten a whole lot faster, I've noticed just this influx and just huge amount of online video advertising. And ever since then, it's like being a motion graphics artist, that can be a very lucrative career, specifically because there's such a need for it nowadays.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right.
Yeah.
So, while I was doing the to go back to my IK splines.
Right. Go for it.
So I did that whole project, and I set it to render, and I kept getting this render failure check console window and Octane log window.
I don't know what all that means.
I didn't know either. And I Googled it, and this is one of the hardest things, the most frustrating things about Octane is when you encounter a problem or want to learn how to do something, is there's not a lot of resources out there.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, create those Octane tutorials. And like for literally the past year or two, I guess I've been using Octane for 2.5 years, almost 3 years now. Is that true? How long has Octane been out?
I don't know. I've been using it for... Dave's been using it for probably about 1.5 years, maybe 2.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I feel like I used it maybe in 2012. I did this Dave Matthews Band music video. That was the first time I used it.
My first was an exterior backyard
Sweet.
scene. And I actually used the same models for this current one I did.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, got to reuse that stuff and build up libraries. But yeah, it's always felt like kind of the Wild West, but that's why it's also exciting, But I wish that someone would come out with this massive training series on it, like everything you need to. I mean, I guess In Life Thrill sort of has, but But, you know...
Yeah, I mean, that's where I learned.
Yeah, exactly. But I've always been, like, kind of... You know, anytime I see a new Octane tutorial, I get pretty excited. Actually, that reminds me, there's this guy... I'm gonna feel really bad because I don't remember his name right now, but he just released...
Sorry, we're real bad with names on the show.
Yeah, but he just released... he actually messaged me to say he liked my NAB presentation, which was super nice. But he is actually one of the first dudes to... he presented in 2015 at NAB on Octane as well. And now he's got some new training on Cineversity that I guess I have to... you know, purchase that or I have to become a member to Cineversity. But
I think you get a membership with your Cinema 4D thing, don't you? If you buy
well, then I need
C4D?
to totally get on that. But yeah,
I think so. I think you get like a 1 year
cool
membership for free.
Let me see, what's this guy's name? NAB Cinema 4D presentation. Oh, I'm totally derailing us. I apologize.
No, it's all right.
Brett Morris. There we go. Brett Morris. So he's got several new tutorials on Cineversity. And, you know, some of it looks like it might be a little bit beginner, but but he also said that there's a lot of new, you know, like helpful nuggets in there. So yeah, anytime there's new Octane training, I'm always all over that. Like Curse Studio, you know, that's that German dude who's constantly smoking into the microphone.
Oh my gosh, I love that guy.
And then
Juicy.
Yeah, exactly. And then
and then you hear him, you know, with his Zippo.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that dude must be so cool. Smoking it up.
I love that guy.
Totally. But yeah, and then there's who else? Glass Hand Films dude. You know, it's just like all these small.
Then of course us.
Well, I don't even need to mention. You guys are like, you know, one of the best resources on Octane out there. It's true.
Whatever.
Like, yeah. Nobody else has done the volumetric stuff. Like, yeah.
Hey, we were lucky.
Yeah.
We're trying to find stuff that people are looking for.
Totally.
And or that we're figuring out, you know, because there needs to be tutorials about it. Like I haven't used Fog that much, but I'm sure if I did, I'll go to Dave's tutorial.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess we're really just making these
for yourselves. That's how I feel too. It's like
so that
I
we
need
can
to
remember.
record a memory. Yeah, absolutely.
That's funny.
I mean, I guess this segues into one of the things I really wanted to talk about.
Oh, hold
what's
on.
up?
Real quick, that render failure check or whatever ended up being a material. Like one material was messed up or something.
That happens to me.
And so I had so many layers of stuff, and I had to go through and I had to delete one thing at a time and figure out what was giving me the problem. And it turned out to be one material. Yeah. Once I finally, and it took me 3 hours to figure it out.
This has happened to me. Like I had the worst. So like maybe a couple months ago, I had like an Octane. Like I was very angry at Octane. Like I love Octane, but like it was giving me some, you know, major problems where it's like it had somehow failed to convert one material, right? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So you take a Cinema 4D material and convert it, and there was just one material that was ruining my scene. So I did this process with like, I was doing this, you know, fluid sims kind of like project.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So I was using X particles to do fluid sims, and it was like this water treatment video. It came out really nice, but it was the timeline was really forgiving. Like I had over a month and a half, which meant I just kind of picked away at it, you know, gradually. But yeah, some of those scenes I would have to like go in like a detective and like add one object after another. Is this one causing it to crash? No. Is this one causing it to crash? No. Oh, it was this one freaking material that should have converted properly and is just for some reason making the whole scene bug out. I'm going to delete that guy and then everything's going to work. So that was one really frustrating thing. And then there would be just other things like with the Harry Sky Potter, but dude, I'm not even going to.
It's all right.
Harry Sky Potter thing. It would be like the broomstick, right? Or the hairs on the broom were all, you know, geometry. And I hadn't noticed that, and I didn't notice that they were like a gajillion polygons. So that thing was like causing my scene to crash every time. So I would like split out this, like that time I didn't even figure it out. I had like split out the scene where I was just rendering a pass of the stormtroopers on the broomsticks and then just rendering the background, and they didn't even composite together very well. It It's just ridiculous. Like, so I was having like a pretty bad octane month where I was pretty down on the whole thing, you know.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, my PCs were failing and GPUs were dying, and I was sending them in.
Oh yeah,
with
you had
RMAs.
to completely rebuild your system a couple of times, didn't you?
Yeah. Anyway, it's working now. It's
good.
Finally.
A little octane tip that has happened to me several times. I don't know if it's just a version 3 or whatever, but if you're going through and doing like G and F, like little frames at a time, or you're making subtle movements and it's constantly updating, it has a tendency to crash my system.
Right.
Crash my
Gotcha.
my octane, because it's just too many subtle movements all at once. And I think what's happening is or maybe it's because I've got check geometry on, or
So you're saying if you're going frame by frame with G and F, what's happening?
Well, okay, so, and I found that this will crash it immediately. You guys can try this out. If you send your data and then before it gets done, you send it again, it'll crash my octane every time. So, I don't know if it works for everyone, but it definitely works on my system.
And by works, you mean
so I think,
crashes?
Yeah, like it'll say plugin Octane has encountered an error, blah blah blah, and then it'll just freeze, and then I have to force quit Cinema 4D.
Gotcha.
So I found that if I'm making like small movements and stuff, and it's automatically updating, it crashes my system as well. And so if I'm doing, I don't know, if you're making subtle movements and stuff and like really quickly making subtle movements, I have a feeling it's like resending the data so much that it eventually just can't keep up and just crashes it. So I don't know.
Totally.
Sometimes I think it's a good practice in order to like get your general look and stuff down and see. But when you're doing some of these subtle animations and stuff, don't have your render window open or your live viewer window open.
Cool.
I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah. You want to talk about our sweet workflow with the Simplematic job and Alembic?
Well, yeah. Well, we were talking about X particles. You got something on here about the Zika frustration with X particles?
Yeah, that's one thing. The three of us, Brograph and I, have done a pretty sweet Zika, PSA. And one of the things.
Are we allowed to post it?
It's not quite done yet.
Okay.
I don't know. That's
all right.
We didn't.
We'll post it once it gets
There's
finished.
not a contract.
If it's approved.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, what was I saying? Like, one of the funniest things I think was that we had to solve this issue about water splashes, right? And it's this very 2D look. We're doing this 2D, 3D thing that EJ, you talked to EJ about it the other week where,
Sorry, my dog's barking.
It's okay. I can hear that. What's outside?
I had to open the garage for my wife. She just got here. So, of course, the dog goes crazy.
Cool. Yeah. Sweet.
It's all right. The joy of a podcast.
Totally. Anyway, so we're doing this EJ style where it's like, supposed to look 2D, but then it's all of these, 3D objects. So we're doing the whole 2D, 3D thing. Sorry. You okay there?
Yeah. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I just had to mute it so that you don't hear constant dog
I see.
barking.
That's what you're doing. I'm like, where's Matt going? Anyway, so the funniest thing to me is like, taking something incredibly complex like X particles and its fluid system, and then using that to solve something that should be such a simple thing.
Yeah.
Like, this thing's supposed to look like a little 2D, cutesy video, but then we're taking like these incredibly complex tools, and it's like, I'm caching this 2-hour fluid simulation to.
Was it a 2-hour cache?
Yeah. And because like
awesome. You had to recache that a couple of times.
Many
too,
times. So like the thing is, like, that I found with X particles, Dave said it best, is it's often very blobby looking with the fluids. And then you have to get the voxels really fine in order for it to not jitter on the edges. So I was seeing, it didn't look horrible, but it kind of gave away that it wasn't this clean cut vector look, right?
I don't know. I thought it looked great.
Matt thought it looked
really
great because, but you're wrong. It didn't look great.
All right.
It was like totally chattering on the edges and looked like some bad green screen key to me, and it was just driving me crazy. So I'm like setting the voxels lower and lower, and of course that's going to drive up the simulation times or whatever. But eventually I got a look that I liked. But it was definitely this, like Dave said, took a really long time to get just this simple 2D splash, and then comped in the EJ Hassenfratz like reflection diagonal lines in there to make it look like 2D animation. But yeah,
I thought it turned out really great. I was really happy with the way it turned out, and I love the mixture of the 2D and the 3D.
I like the 2D 3D thing for sure. But it was interesting. So I went to dinner the other night. There are a couple of new friends that I've got. They are amazing animators, and it's crazy because they live in Charlottesville, and like Charlottesville is not a town with animation. Like I'm kind of a solo artist here. I'm just like, there's nobody else.
Dude, that just means that like everyone's going to you for all the
work.
work.
I do kind of have a monopoly in Charlottesville and to a lesser degree Virginia, which is great. But it also means that I'm like, living in a cave where nobody else can talk to me about motion graphics, which is why it's been so great to hop on Skype with you guys and geek out all the time. Yeah. And why NAB was such a fun experience. But anyway, so like, sorry. Is your kid gonna storm the
no,
beach or whatever?
It's all right. He's just, I think he's decided to play with his small
you should never get is it an electronic toy?
Cymbals or tambourine or whatever. Yeah, tambourine. Nice. So anyway,
well, that's okay. We're gonna be serenaded with those sounds.
Yeah.
But what was I gonna say? Yeah, I totally forget what I was talking about.
You were talking about NAB, and how great it was, and working around with people and stuff.
Yeah, so I was saying that we just got a couple new friends in Charlottesville. Their company is called Man vs. Magnet, and they're going to be they're going to be the reel of the week, I guess. I don't know. You know this stuff better than me.
Man vs. Magnet reel of the week.
All right, so
we'll get to that.
Get to that later. But anyway, I was talking about this job with him, and he was like, I mean, basically, he would have just hand animated that. He would have brought that into Photoshop and made kind of a cool, splash effect that looks, more legitimately cartoony or whatever. Yeah. What's going on?
He's just like throwing everything.
That's awesome.
That's okay. Sorry.
Anyway.
Yeah, so the joys. And I'm not going to edit this either. I'm just going to leave it
that's
all.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. There you go. So anybody who's, walking your dogs and listening to the Brograph podcast like I do, you're going to get some awesome sounds.
That is the joy of having a 3-year-old
totally.
And doing a podcast.
Yeah. I'm pretty glad I don't have a 3-year-old. No offense, of course, but
no, they're great.
They're great.
But when you don't have kids or they're other people's kids, you hate them.
Right, totally.
Until they're your kids.
Totally.
So anyway,
I think the point of what I was trying to say is it's interesting to see like the different, we just solved the problem from completely different, he would have solved the problem entirely differently because he's a legit 2D animator.
I was scared of X particles.
Right.
Because I've seen some really cool looking stuff with X particles. And when you see something that looks so good and so realistic and so whatever, it's scary because it's something new and you think it's got to be so complex.
Totally. But the nice thing is that you can just dive into one specific module in X particles. Like it's like a whole world onto itself. So like if you just want to learn fluids in X particles, you can learn fluids. And I don't know very much X particles. I just know like how to make a flock of bats and how to make some water stuff or whatever. But I'm gonna learn much more in the future. And that's the nice thing is it's like the MoGraph module. Like it's a whole system that you can pick and choose, what you want to learn about, and then go for there.
Yeah, for sure.
From there.
Yeah, and see, I would have with that, I probably would have just used like metaballs or something.
Right. Totally.
And I really wanted to use metaballs for. It was like I was with the specific waterfall thing that I had to make. I was like, okay, do I use metaballs? Do I use Houdini or do I use X
Houdini
particles?
is just, I mean, it is the best solution, but it's like,
I know
it would take a decade
so
to learn.
good.
It would have taken a decade to learn.
I was going to
dude.
figure it
Yeah.
out in a couple hours.
Yeah, exactly. So like X particles, I think is the entry level, like best, you know, like system for water at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, I actually tried Metaballs at first,
really?
you know, and like it was fine. I could get so basically I was using emitter to emit just, you know, spheres. And then I threw some gravity on it, but for some reason I couldn't get the dynamics to work. Like it wouldn't slide along the rock surface, and
I mean, I find it
was just going through it, even though I put some dynamic tag on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was another one of those things, and then I was just like, all right, well, this didn't work in 5 minutes. Let's go ahead and try and learn X particles.
Totally. I find it so funny though that you didn't even use either of the fluid systems. You just went for straight up particles.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't let the world know.
I did the particles.
Yeah.
I didn't use a specific thing. Well, because I started off using the boundary. What is that called? SP boundary
So
or something like that.
there are two systems. There's SPH fluids and then there are flip fluids.
Yeah, I think I wasn't using either of those.
Okay.
See, I guess I was watching the wrong tutorial.
You were watching the wrong tutorial.
Because I had to kind of figure it out. The one that he started with, it was Hella Lux, you know, where it was basically the pyramid, you know, and then it would be all at once, and then he'd stop emitting it, and then it would fall down into this box.
Oh, gotcha. That should be one of the fluid systems, though. That's either...
Yeah, it is one of the fluid system
gotcha.
ones. But like he created like a boundary box.
Right.
And it's like, I didn't really need that boundary box because I was going to, what I did was, and this was kind of cool. It was kind of ingenious of me, you know, because you can use a mesh as an emitter, you know?
Right.
So what I did was I took part of my rock and just, you know, took some of the polygons, you
Made a
know, and
selection.
deleted the rest of the polygons.
Okay.
And use that mesh as my emitter,
right?
So it would be emitting straight from the thing, as if there were like, I don't know,
totally
places that shoot the water out of, you know.
Dude, it's hard to talk about this stuff. You're like, it's like, you know, there's spurt the water.
So I didn't need a boundary box, you know.
Right.
The only thing I needed was that once it hit the water, I needed it to die. You know? I needed to kill it.
And there's a kill modifier.
And so I had to eventually use a kill modifier.
Totally.
So I just did all these particles, and they eventually... And it was funny, at first, like, nothing was working.
Right.
You know, I couldn't get it to flow, and, like, my rate or whatever would just shoot stuff up.
Right. So
and,
you had an emitter. Did you have a skinner? Obviously, you had a skinner.
I eventually put a skinner on there. That was my last thing. So those are definitely
components you need. If you didn't have either of the fluid systems, it totally works. Like, you can totally get particles that, you know, the skinner, you've got the different types that are like water. There's like the fluid one that looks like fluids, and then there's also one called Zubridson.
Zubridson is what I used.
That's the one that actually looks the best, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And so, like, when I was going through his tutorial, I was like, oh, Zubridson, okay. And I just kind of followed. I'm so bad. I just jump along.
No, that's totally, like, if you're trying to make something fast, you know, you scrub through a tutorial and see, you know, what the hell are they doing. But yeah, I think that if you don't have either the SPH fluids or flip fluids in there, it won't behave like fluid exactly.
And that was probably my problem.
I mean, but then you still have blobby particles that are getting skinned like fluid. You've still got particles colliding.
The thing is,
you know,
like,
so it still could look like water.
It looked good. It looked okay. But I felt like it was moving too fast.
Right.
And I think that was the problem.
Yeah. And with those
but
fluid
I also
systems,
I also had like zero friction on everything. And it's just like...
Yeah. You hacked it. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, with the fluid systems, you get like the surface tension. And then the flip fluids, you get these like interesting, I don't know what you would call it, but you get spirals and kind of these more accurate fluid dynamics, basically. You know, yeah. So I think that's the newest system is the flip fluids. That's the one that I've been using.
I will say I really like X particles.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
Totally.
And like, I don't know, Dave and I were talking about it this week. I was like, hey, I redid some of your X particles, during the 3 seconds in which we were actually talking on Skype. Right. There's a 5 or 6 hour time difference.
Totally.
And, and he was, it's so funny. Like, he's like, oh yeah, I went and got I brought my iPhone 5 and, I got some, data on it. So I got 10 gigs or whatever. So if you message me on iMessage, I'll totally message you back. Dude, I was texting him all week and I didn't get a single response.
Oh, really? That's hilarious. Yeah. He was too busy like listening to Radiohead and like rocking out or whatever.
I didn't get a single response until he said, dude, Radiohead just played Creep. Yeah. They haven't played that in 10 years. Yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. Thanks for responding to all my
Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, he's so high tech, that guy.
I know.
He's like, I've got all of these solutions for communicating with you.
And he's like broadcasting Facebook Live.
Yeah, I got
during
my
his
phone
vlog.
popped up with like, Dave is going to be on Facebook Live, and I'm like, what? Yeah. I've never heard of this thing.
Yeah. So it was cool. He took shots of what was it? It was fermented sharks.
What?
It was like fermented shark liquor or something.
That sounds disgusting. What is?
Oh
what
yeah,
is that?
Like their faces, they all said it was disgusting.
Oh great.
But it's like apparently a thing you got to do in Iceland.
Okay, it's the Icelandic tradition. Cool.
Yeah. So
anyway, but yeah, so I think my one thing I was going to say when I was comparing notes with this guy, we were having dinner, the 2D animator dude I was talking about, right? About the fluid stuff, that inspired me to go and buy this book. And I've got the...
Is it the Animator's Guidebook?
No, I have that one.
Animator's Survival Guide?
I don't read books enough.
I will push that book. Yeah.
So I've read half of the Animator's Survival Guide kit, and I will show it to you right here just to prove my cred. There it is.
Awesome. Shiny too. Barely even
picked up. That's true. I was reading it. I read like at least a fourth of it on a plane once. But yeah, that's my problem. Is I got all these books, but this is not the way I really consume information nowadays, or ever really. It's like always tutorials, but this one I felt like was so unique that I really just wanted to buy it. So I'll show this to you.
What's it called?
Elemental Magic, and we can put this in the show notes. But it's basically special effects animation, but just like hand drawn. So like fluids, fire, smoke, any of these things. He basically step by step shows you how you would draw these things out and create realistic fire and water.
That's cool.
It's really freaking cool. It's pretty specific, but like I've always wanted to when we do these sketch and tune type jobs, at least one of them that I did.
I've only done one of them.
Okay. One of them that I did, I mean, it's like one of my favorite styles. Either I want to go like super cartoony or photorealistic, right? Those are the two extremes, and I really want to go either way. But with some of them, I'm like, I would go in and add like extra little lines in Photoshop. It's like that old school way of painting on frames and adding these extra little hits and stuff. Like if an object hits the ground, you want like these little lines to spring out or something. Just like fun animation, 2D. Cartoony techniques and stuff. So I think this is definitely taking it to the next level, where it's like, we could have done, if I'd known how, we could have done these splashes as, full like effects, hand-drawn effects, and they would have probably looked a lot more beautiful that way. Maybe.
I still thought they looked
okay. Well, cool. But just for the future, when we do these cartoony things, that kind of stuff's really fun.
Elemental Magic.
I'll have
to check that out. Yeah. That actually sounds really cool. So
yeah, totally.
You've been taking a watercolor class, right?
Oh yeah, totally. So Emma has at one point
your girlfriend.
She's my fiance. She's not my girlfriend. Right. Let's get this straight. My fiance. I even have an engagement ring, which is unconventional and pretty sweet.
That's all right.
But what was I gonna say? So she kind of. I was like geeking out on Beeple one day, right? Like I do. And
like
I do, and showing her that he does these every days, and that's how he got really good at what he does. Like for 7 or 8 years now, he's been doing every days, and he just started with drawing, and then he went to photography, and then Illustrator artwork, and then Cinema 4D, Cinema 4D, Cinema 4D, and then Octane and all this stuff. But that kind of inspired her to start doing everydays with something she wanted to learn, which was watercolors. And she's actually...
Oh, that's cool.
And I mean, she's doing almost dailies.
Who knew the digital world would, move over to the real life world?
Exactly. But yeah, she's doing the almost dailies because it's not an everyday thing, but she's done at least like 10 of them now.
Hashtag
almost daily. Yeah, I need to tell her about that.
Is she posting them anywhere?
She's posting them on Facebook. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she's got a little album.
We're friends on Facebook. I haven't seen any.
Well, you should go check it out because they're really cool. So she's rocking that, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Watercolor looks beautiful. And
I love watercolor.
Yeah.
I wish there was a way to recreate that in 3D.
Yeah, and there's just not.
Yeah.
So until, Octane comes out with its super duper toon shader or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I wish there was too.
Yeah.
But
I wonder if there's something you could do like in After Effects in order to create more of a watercolor
there
look.
are Photoshop actions. There are things in After Effects that there's like all those ink tutorials that were popular around the time when Sherlock Holmes titles came out,
Yeah.
And all those ink bleeds, that stuff's really cool, and you can shoot your own ink bleeds and then use them as kind of like mats for revealing things, and that stuff is really cool. But it's maybe not the same vibe as straight up watercolor. I haven't really seen anything that really nails that watercolor feel.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of tattoos lately.
Oh, really?
That that are like very like splash watercolory type stuff. I don't know. I've been wanting to get one.
Oh yeah.
Another tattoo. I haven't had a tattoo in like, I don't know, almost 10 years.
Yeah. Where's your
aching to cover up.
Where's your tattoo, bro?
I got 2 stars on my ankles,
nice,
and then
nice.
I've got a television tattooed on my calf.
That's awesome. Cool.
Like old school television with the bunny ears and stuff.
Oh yeah,
and
totally.
It's got fuzz going on the TV.
That's great.
I like saying it has fuzz because it needs a analog to digital converter.
Nice. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't have any cool tattoos or cool tattoo stories, but
it's funny. I was thinking about it. I was like, I always told myself that like if I didn't have to have a real job, I'd probably get like sleeves and stuff like that. Right. But now that like I have my own company,
you're not going to do
and
it.
There's no way I would ever do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I don't feel comfortable. Like I know how much I hate 2 of the 3 tattoos that I have.
Yeah, you're locking in that decision forever. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's like I ain't gonna put a bunch of like.
And as an artist, you're probably gonna constantly be critiquing whatever that art that you put on your body is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah. So watercolor class.
Yeah. That's cool. She's doing the almost dailies.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so we were talking about.
Is she putting them on Instagram?
No, she doesn't have an Instagram. Neither do I.
Putting them on Instagram and then putting a filter on that Instagram.
Yeah. So analog, digital, analog. I don't know. So yeah. Basically, we found there's a local like art center. It's called McGuffey Art Center, and we signed up for a
shout out to McGuffey
Art Center. We found there's a ton of painting classes there. One of them was a watercolor class, so we signed up together. It's just a fun thing that we're starting to do as a couple, and it's like totally putting me out of my element. I don't know. I have never drawn anything in my life, right? I'm just like I've always done this stuff digitally, and I don't even do like the whole Photoshop like drawing stuff either. I've always
I don't do any Photoshop drawing. I just do Photoshop image manipulation.
Exactly. So yeah, I've been doing visual effects and compositing and all of these different things, but like when it comes to the fundamentals of like drawing and perspective, I am clueless, right? So this is like pretty cool.
Same here.
This is pretty cool. And the first week was pretty hilarious because the guy, like, his name is John Hancock.
Nice.
So he just like talked. Is it John Hancock? Who is it? What's his name? I'm not shit talking. Okay. Anyway.
His name is Joe Schmo.
John Hancock, dude. Have you ever been to John Hancock's grave in the actual John Hancock's grave in Boston?
No, I have not.
It is ginormous and phallic looking.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I mean, that's when you've made it is you've got a giant phallic grave, right?
Right. I know that's when I will have made it.
Yeah.
When I die and my grave is a giant penis.
Yeah, your grave should be a giant penis. Anyway, so this dude, John Hancock, he basically talked for like 3/4 of the class, but some of it was really useful. He like showed us these brush techniques and like, just like what the different brushes do and all of that. But it was funny. He,
made some happy trees.
Happy trees. And, at some point it was just like we were standing over his shoulder for like what felt like an hour just listening to him talk. Like the guy like really likes to have a class and likes to talk, but it's cool. Like we're gonna, it's gonna be fun, and we're in it for the long haul. It's gonna go until like August or something for like for every week or whatever. We went and bought all these pretty intense art supplies and these expensive brushes and some like
an easel. Did you get an easel?
No, I don't have an easel, but yeah,
you need an easel and one of those like round thingies that you put your thumb through that you put all the individual paints on.
I have not seen
and
one
a beret.
Of those. Okay,
a beret.
I definitely need a beret.
Really, I mean, I think that's all you need to be an artist, right? Is an easel,
yes,
a beret,
yes,
and the thing that you hold your thumb on.
I have not seen this thing that you hold your thumb on, but that sounds awesome. So like you've got like paint on every finger basically, or what?
No. Oh,
sorry, what'd you say? You broke up for a second there.
I don't know what it's called. Hold on. Let's see. I'll Google it real quick. Thumb painting holder.
Okay, cool.
Thing. This is how great Google is. Oh yeah, totally found it.
Sweet.
What is that called?
Send it to me.
I have no idea. Come on, it's the thing that what's his name uses.
Bob Ross.
Yeah, Bob Ross.
I haven't seen enough Bob Ross to know.
Paint tray palette or something.
Yeah, totally.
That you just hold and you're like.
I don't know if you can do that with watercolor because it's supposed to.
No, you can't. I don't think you can.
Yeah, but that's cool.
Well, I mean, I suppose you can, because what is it? Isn't watercolor just like gouache or oil or something with a bunch of water?
Yeah, it's just pigment with water, but the runnier it gets, the more it would just drip off your whatever you're holding.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. But yeah.
So
anyway, I'm really excited about that. It's like putting me out of my element, and it's hopefully going to teach me some fundamentals of painting and color and stuff. Yeah. And like this is a thing that I've been
perspective and design and stuff like that. That's good.
Yeah, and this is a thing that I've been really wanting to get more into ever since. Like I recently watched School of Motion's, like this is one of the best tutorials I have ever seen. He's got this series on this short film that he put together. So it's like 10 hours, and this is all for free on schoolofmotion.com. And it's called Giants. So the short film's called Giants, and he just goes from start to finish, the whole process, like from storyboarding through to, just like creating ideas and, and then he goes into Photoshop and actually draws something. And I'm like, to me, this is like, it's very simple, but at the same time, it's like mind blowing. It's like, wait a second, I could start setting up these shots and drafting out ideas on paper, and if I learn some drawing fundamentals, then I can start, sketching down ideas before I even go to Octane or any of these other things. And for some people, that becomes a much faster process. Like, and it creates, you can really start thinking about composition and start thinking about how your shots are going to cut together that way. A lot of the time I find I like just start in Octane or Cinema 4D and I like just render something, and then I render some more things, and I don't think hard enough about how these things are going to cut together. And then when I get to putting them together in Premiere, I'm like, oh crap, those shots don't really go together at all. And so I have to go back to the drawing board. So that's not necessarily the most efficient process, and like I feel that you could just get a lot more ideas out on paper first and like create a legit storyboard and have this kind of consistent feeling piece that way, and so I don't know, to me that's like one of the next steps. It's really exciting. And I've also been watching this other Learn Squared tutorial. Learn Squared is another shout out here. They're just like these primo tutorials that have just come out. Sorry, I'm just totally trailing off here.
It's all good. Learn
Squared. Yeah, so this is like Ash Thorpe's
UI and data design.
Yeah, so
that's
this is
the one that you got on here.
Exactly. So this is Ash Thorpe's baby.
Okay.
Do you know much about Ash Thorpe?
I mean, he produces some pretty stuff, and I follow him on Twitter, and I see the rims that he creates.
The rims.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Cool.
I think that's him.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he's, done so, motion graphics artists that are working in film nowadays typically are starting to do like the main place they're working is in like this data design stuff, right? So like, if you're working on a major feature film, like for instance, Andrew Kramer's team, right? They did the holographic imagery for Star Wars.
Right.
And then, it's just becoming this trend where like for Tron, for instance, G Monk's team did all of those, crazy, like, basically like UI layouts, like Iron Man type HUDs, right? So this is like the trend. If you're working in cinema and doing work on films, the major players like David Lewandowski, he did like all of the, the visuals in Oblivion, like these HUDs and screens that come up, and same thing with Ash Thorpe.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know, it's this interesting trend that has emerged where the most professional and filmy that Cinema 4D gets is in making these holograms. Because it's so good in creating unique and complex motion, right?
It's the whole MoGraph stuff.
It's exactly right. It's the MoGraph stuff. So, anyway, Ash Thorpe is part of that whole movement, and he did, a lot of graphics for, let me think, he did stuff for Total Recall, for his big one was Ender's Game, right?
Okay.
Ender's Game.
Haven't seen the movie. Love the book.
One of my favorite books of all time. Yeah, don't get me started on sci-fi books because I love that stuff. Anyway, so Ender's Game and a lot, and
you like science fiction, you just don't like science reality. That's why you had to leave neuroscience.
Yes. And Ash Thorpe did the freaking Adobe logo or whatever, the most some of the most recent Adobe artwork and stuff. But anyway,
they had a guy at NAB last year, I believe, who had worked on the team, who did all the UI stuff for, I want to say it was the Flash.
Cool.
Anyway, saw his presentation. It was good.
Totally. Anyway. Yeah, exactly. But so Ash, has the Collective podcast, which is another one of my favorite podcasts, where they do each week, these interesting interviews with artists and stuff.
I would love to listen. I want to listen to some of the other MoGraph podcasts,
right?
But I'm really worried that it's going to change the way I want to do this podcast.
Really?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
I know that's
you've
so
got your
totally
own,
weird.
You've got your own
we've
thing
got
going.
our own style. We've got our own way we do stuff, and I'm really worried that if I listen to another one, I'll be like, I like the way they do that. Yeah.
Totally.
And it'll just change.
It'll change you. Yeah.
But
you know what? It's not really a MoGraph podcast.
That sounded really pretentious, didn't it?
No.
I didn't mean to sound pretentious.
No, it's like that argument that people who, I feel like I've heard the same kind of thing from people who will get into a thing like photography and be like, I don't want to look at anybody else's work. I just don't want to be influenced by other people's work because I've got my own creative vision going. Yeah. That's what that argument sounded like for me.
Okay. Good. It still sounds kind of pretentious.
It's kind of pretentious, but I totally get what you mean. You and Dave have crafted this thing together that's like, you have your own, way of interacting. You have your own way of pacing the show. And, I'm basically ruining that right now because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm never on podcasts, and I never have to talk to human beings either.
No, see, like I've seen Dave do it enough times, so I know what he's doing. Right. Or how he's building everything.
Right.
And you're playing the map part right now.
Right. Yeah, and
which really is the best part.
Yeah, no, it's the sitting from the peanut gallery and throwing peanuts or whatever.
Totally.
I don't know. I just mix like a bunch of metaphors or whatever.
But Ash Thorpe is big in the UI and design stuff.
He is, and so he created this very unique site called Learn Squared, and the concept, it's super interesting. It's like taking, and they charge a premium price, right? So it's like $100 if you just want to watch the primary set of tutorials, which is like anywhere between 10 and 30 hours of tutorials. So it's You're getting a lot of content. But then the secondary price is $200, and that allows you to access. So maybe I should jump back and explain the whole theory behind this. Is that there's someone that is kind of the expert and they're presenting their field. So with Ash, it would be the UI and data design stuff. So he does this stuff every day. He's boiled it down to a science, right? But then he's also like paired up with these other artists. So like his best friend, Michie Kuchara, who's like a really brilliant environment painter and works on these like video game concept art things like, what's that awesome video game that I played, The Last of Us?
Oh yeah,
I love that game.
Beautiful
Art. So this guy is amazing. So like they'll pair up, and so Ash will teach Michie as his apprentice, right? So you'll see not only the main content, which is what everything that Ash is doing, but then how someone who's unfamiliar with this field will approach it. So you're seeing Michie now go through the exact same things and do all of those exercises and create his own art in that realm, which is really interesting. And then on top of that, you'll see the students that have signed up for the most expensive option, which is $1,000, which is pretty insane. But they're getting this intense mentorship, right? It's like going to film school or something, right? Or taking a legit class at a film school. And so these students are then in these sessions with Ash for like 3 hours at a time, where they're like their work is being observed and critiqued, and they're discussing in a forum and in this Skype type environment, basically, you know. And so like you get to hear for $200, you get to hear not only the main tutorials and the apprentice, like the person who's already an expert in one thing but is now learning from the expert in this thing. And all the students who are collaborating with each other and getting critiqued. So it's very interesting. And like that kind of stuff, like to me, that's taking these, one-off tutorials. Like Grayscale Gorilla is amazing, right? And I learned all of my stuff from Grayscale Gorilla, as did everybody. GSG and
everyone
Andrew
starts.
Kramer, those are the things, right? But if you want to take it to the next level, for me, for the longest time, that was FX PhD, where you'd get a set of 10 classes that were all kind of grouped together, right? And building on each other, and very much like what I was saying with Joey Korenman's class at School of Motion with this giant short film, like start to finish stuff. That's what I really like, is this start to finish, like the whole process, right? Really in-depth information. Well, this is like taking it to the next level. It's like not only like learning, but how people learn what they learn. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like very meta.
No, that totally. Yeah.
So that's why it's interesting to me, and so that's kind of what I've been gravitating towards recently, and it feels like fresh and young versus like
totally.
FX PhD has been great to me, but it's like kind of getting a little more stale in my opinion. Like they've one really cool thing is that they've switched to it used to be the model was like you would subscribe to a semester and it'd be like $400. 3 or 4, $100 a class kind of model. They've recently just opened the gates to for a monthly subscription. So like $80, you get access to all of their content, and for $100, you get access to download all their content. So that's like a much more cheap. It's a much better deal. But at the same time, they're not releasing necessarily as cutting edge of content, right? They're just kind of opening the gates to the library. I think to me, it seems like they've had like an issue.
Man, how do they worry about like piracy and stuff like that?
Well, at this point,
like, even
you
if
can
you can
pirate
download
any of that stuff. You can fire all of that stuff to pirate, and they maybe just don't care at this point because they're like, okay, we're becoming more like lynda.com, where we just kind of have our whole library out there. For a long time, they were in the primo position. It seems
to me like someone could pay the $100 for 1 month, download their entire library,
that's exactly what
and
happens.
Then just not pay again.
That has already happened. Exactly. Exactly. So it's interesting, but kind of weird at the same time. And it seems like they are now moving to that more mid-grade tutorial level, whereas people like School of Motion, where they've got their animation mentorship that EJ was talking about on the podcast or whatever. I forget what that is exactly called, but they've got, animation boot camp, I think it's called. And they've also got character animation boot camp. So those are more the close to $1,000 positioning, like really high end, like incredibly in depth. Like you watch this class and it's not just watching this class. It's like you're participating in an online class with a bunch of other students. You have private forums, you have private, sessions where your work is being judged by professionals. Like that kind of thing is like taking it to the next level, where it's like
totally,
you don't need to go to film school anymore. You can do these online film schools. So Learn Squared,
that makes me nervous.
Why does it make you nervous?
I don't know.
Yeah,
because you're dealing with some of these really hardcore professionals and putting your work out there. That's kind of,
it's scary, but that's really cool. That's how you're going to get better. So like for me, I'm always trying to figure out how am I going to get better, right? And I think that for me, it's like, this holy trinity of, I don't know if that's what you would say. I don't know if I'm using that right, but like, it's like I need to do client work because that's going to push me to, get the work out there fast and like work with a client and like keep me engaged with a client, right? And then I need to do passion projects because that's going to look the coolest and be the most fun. And because I'm going to get to really explore and go crazy, right? And then I need to watch a lot of tutorials. So that's my system, right? That's what I've discovered, that I need like an equal balance between those three things. And that's how I get better. Like, that's what I want. And like, if I had $1 million, I would just like sit around all day and do passion projects and tutorials up the wazoo. Because I'm still that tutorial addict. I know that lots of people
I've
get out
actually
of that
mentioned it a
phase.
few times, I think, on the show where like I'll Skype you and I'll be like, what are you working on today? And you're like, oh, today's a tutorial day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, it's weird. I talk to lots of other people and I don't know if anybody's exactly like that. Like, when they're first starting out, people will sit down and watch lots of tutorials, but I'm still
See, the thing is, like
that.
I will hit up a tutorial whenever I don't know how to do something, or if I've done it before and I forget, I'll go and find that one tutorial.
Totally.
Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually one of the things I really wanted to talk about this week, because like a couple of the people after I did my NAB presentation, a couple of random people like messaged me and asked, how did you get to where you are today? Which to me is not that far. I'm in the middle of it as far as I'm concerned. I looked up to so many other artists. Like, there's so much work out there that just blows my mind, and even work from individuals, and like, I'm like constantly asking myself, how do I get better? Am I plateauing? And I freak out that I'm plateauing, right? And it makes me angry that if I don't have enough time to like watch tutorials and do what I need to do to get better. It's an addiction. But
I used to have a boss who would tell me, can you just get better? I need you to get better.
That guy was a jerk. But yeah, so people, a couple different people have messaged me and asked me, how did you get to where you are, blah blah blah, and and they actually specifically asked me what tutorials I've watched to be able to learn what I've learned, because that is a big part of it. Is like, you've collected this information as you're going. A huge part of it is the client work you've done and your own personal exploration, your own personal research.
Seriously, like I was really lucky that I was really lucky that I had Dave there to kind of teach me this stuff. Like he taught me how to basically do a logo, and I took a small class on modeling and stuff, but that wasn't really anything. But being able to have him there while I was working and be like, hey, how do I do this? What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. And him just kind of point me in the right direction. That was great.
For sure. When I started out, I always wanted a mentor. And there was one guy that sort of mentored me at my first job, but he was a little bit like also burned out on the whole motion design thing. So he was not the most helpful to me. But one of my buddies like kind of, learned stuff alongside me, and that was, in that job. And it was great to have that collaborative environment. Like, that's something that I really miss as a freelancer now, and why it's awesome talking to you guys and working online with you guys. Like, there's a whole opportunity for, online collaboration nowadays.
Yeah, totally. It's all right. We'll get you to Dallas sometime.
Yeah, totally.
We'll get you to move here.
Totally. But yeah, I mean, I did want a mentor for a long time. And at some point I realized you don't necessarily need that anymore. It's not the old school model of like this, you're an apprentice and...
Yeah, but it's while you're right, yes, it's a totally different world when you're able to like jump ideas off of someone who is right there with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's true. You can come with your question, how do I do this? And they can immediately answer that specific question versus having to dig through all of this massive information online to try to get there. But at the same time, that's also what Google's for, and forums.
Yeah.
And, you can do that stuff with the internet. You can usually if you've got a problem, there's someone that's posted a tutorial, like solving that exact problem, or posted it on the forum,
Totally.
But yeah, so people would come to me and ask, what my favorite tutorials are. And the reason I wanted to talk about this on this episode is because when I'm listening to other podcasts, a lot of the time, one of my favorite times is when others are like, there's this great book that I read that really jumped my knowledge forward. Or there's this one tutorial series that like, was mind blowing and like gave me all these new techniques.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to go through some of these. And I also wanted to know what some of your favorite tutorials of all time were, if you have them in your mind.
Favorite tutorials of all time.
Of all time, bro.
Man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll think about it. You tell me yours.
Okay. I do have a list. So obviously, Andrew Kramer, Grayscale Gorilla, and EJ are amazing. Like I think I binge watched all of EJ's tutorials, not this summer, but last summer. And those were awesome. And obviously, I don't even need to mention that Brograph has excellent tutorials.
Oh, shut up.
Excellent tutorials.
You're fired.
I am fired. That was just totally sucking up. No. So one of the best courses I've ever seen was on FX PhD. It's by Ryan Summers. Do you know that dude?
I don't.
He worked at Imaginary Forces for a while, much like Jeremy that presented at NAB this year. Do you remember Jeremy? I think he did the Game of Thrones presentation and the one that we watched together, which was the gaming conference one with the little tetrahedron or maybe it wasn't a tetrahedron.
That was totally one of my favorites.
One of my favorites too. That guy was that was amazing. Anyway,
that one was totally amazing.
Imaginary Forces is literally one of the best motion graphics companies out there. They've created like the Marvel intro. They've created, the Mad Men intro, like all of these massive, like, beautifully designed ads and things. Anyway, so Ryan Summers worked there for a couple of years, and he taught an FX PhD course while he was working there, and it's called MoGraph 212 or MOG 212, How to Work Fast and Flexible. And he like basically showed how he tricked out After Effects with all these crazy buttons and like would just iterate like crazy on different designs, and he just like had a really fresh way of working in both After Effects and Cinema 4D. And like I don't know, I connected with it pretty hard or whatever. I don't know. That sounded pretty gay there now. But like, so he tricked out his After Effects and Cinema 4D, but also he had these like really great classes on just, his failures, basically, like in trying to pitch to these big these big companies or whatever, and these crazy clients. He like worked like 30 hours straight once, and then they still didn't get the bid, right? They were bidding on this huge job, and they put tons of effort into it, and they even made an animated portion of the ad that they were going to produce, and they still failed, right? And so there were these like very inspirational talks in it, and that's one thing I really liked, is it wasn't just like pure information or like a random collection of of information. It was like beyond what you would expect, right? So that was one of my favorites. Another one, Gareth Edwards, who directed Godzilla.
Myself some Gareth Edwards. Yeah. Did I tell you about the time it was NAB probably like 5 or 6 years ago? I'm walking by the Adobe booth, and the Adobe booth was much smaller back then. And Gareth Edwards is presenting, and there's like maybe 12 people in the audience. And it was right after he had done Monsters or whatever. Yeah. And so he's kind of showing off what he's doing. And that, actually, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because that one was one of my biggest inspirations for compositing ever.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Like,
exactly.
Being able to watch his breakdown of how he did a bunch of other stuff and how he got into the industry.
Exactly. So
was like
people's path.
Incredible.
Exactly. That's what gets me really excited.
And it's so funny because like, after I was with a buddy and he's like, oh my gosh, this is Gareth Edwards. I just watched Monster the other day. I got to get my picture taken with him.
Right.
Next thing I know, he's like doing Godzilla and doing
now
Star Wars.
Yeah. So,
which, did you hear that they had to bring in another person to direct some additional footage?
No.
Yeah. So
what does that mean?
I think I don't know. From what I read online, it's because they're worried that Gareth Edwards' view of the Star Wars world is not Star Warsy enough.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to bring an additional person in order to add more footage to make it look more Star Warsy.
That's hilarious.
I don't know.
Yeah. Got to keep the brand going. Totally.
Yeah. Thanks, Disney.
Yeah, totally.
So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Gareth Edwards. He's great.
Yeah. So, dude, what was I going to say about Gareth Edwards?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, I think the one thing you were getting me excited about is that, like, that's what I'm trying to point out here is that, like, these tutorials that go beyond just, like, pure information into this is inspiring the crap out of me, and I'm seeing this person's path into the industry. I'm seeing, like, their unique way of working that is like nobody else, and they're giving me these mind-blowing tips, right? And so with Gareth Edwards, yeah, he had this one class, and it was the most popular one on FX PhD. It was like guerrilla filmmaking and compositing, and it's still out there, and you can still buy it.
Does he talk about the medieval show or whatever that he did?
Exactly.
Yeah, see, that's what I got to watch. I haven't seen it, but I saw.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he went over in his talk at NAB.
Yeah, and
it's like so cool being able to watch like these very simple compositing techniques and stuff in order to make this massively amazing looking stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, and he was doing that all as a solo artist, like Monsters. He did. All in his basement over the course of maybe a year, right?
Have you heard the story of when he was sent it into the film festival?
No.
So he sent it. I think it was either like Austin City Limits or Austin Film Festival or something like that. I don't know. And so like you had to send it in on like a DV tape or something like that, like a few months before they chose who it was going in, before you sent the final. And so when they sent it in, they hadn't finished the monster yet.
Oh yeah.
And they just put like text up there that said monster goes here.
Right, totally. Yeah, those he said those shots each like took him a month or something or yeah.
So he once they got accepted and everything, the person who was telling him, they're like, yeah, I really hope you replace the text part, and he goes, oh yeah, it's much better now, it's a much better font and it looks really pretty.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think what was I saying, like, yeah, just some of the compositing techniques he shows, like, even though it's an older tutorial, like, he goes totally crazy. And, like, he breaks down his Excel spreadsheet of, like, this is what I have to do every day. I need to work on these things or whatever. Like, he's a machine, And to me, that was incredibly inspiring as a solo artist, as someone who also aspires to be a one-man band and to be able to pull off these, And that's what I've been doing. I
wonder if he still thinks like that, though. Like,
I think
knows that.
That's
like,
a really good question.
See, me, I think I would have a hard time, like, breaking myself out of that mold.
Yeah.
If I was directing something, like being like, oh, well, we need to shoot it like this and this because,
at the same
one
time,
person is going to be working on this or something instead of getting an entire team.
Yeah, I've listened to interviews with him, and he did find it like pretty frustrating a lot of the time, like working on Godzilla, to be on set because it's like this massive machine that's already moving and and all these parts, and he didn't necessarily feel like he had that much creative input as a director at that point. He said the place he loved the most was in previs, because at that point he can design all of the shots, and go back and forth incredibly quickly with a team to figure out what everything looks like. And then beyond that, it's just like the movie's going to get made, and it's like, so the movie for him was previs. So that was really interesting to hear.
That's cool. That's really neat.
Yeah. But I think that all of that, that crazy discipline and all of those years with compositing and After Effects and being a one-man band like he was, all of that piped into his directorial stuff. Like, the more you learn about other fields, the more it just kind of aids what you're doing. Like, I didn't feel like I knew anything about visual effects until I picked up a camera, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like all of this, people say specialize, but for me it's always been, learn, generalize, learn more and more. Exactly. So
my big tutorials, like the other than like really Gareth Edwards seeing him speak at NAB was kind of like a big turning point where like I focused less on like motion graphics and more on compositing.
Yeah.
You know? And so I did a lot of compositing from that point on because he kind of showed like, hey, this is surprisingly much easier than you think it is.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but the big ones on Video Copilot, the ones that I have watched probably
a million times.
A dozen times. Yeah. And like, I'm sure everyone has watched this one, The Fly from Space.
Oh, yes. Of course.
Yeah.
One of my first favorite tutorials. Absolutely.
First one I ever saw was Time Freeze.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Where the guy's walking with the box and he falls, you know?
I've used that technique many a time. I've done some time free. I actually taught a VFX class for some kids in town. There's a school called Lighthouse, and they just kind of do like a summer camp for high school students or whatever. And you know, we did a whole week of time freezes, which was really fun.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then the light glow, you know, where it's got the little lights that pop up and stuff.
Oh yeah.
That was the
color
first
vibrance
tutorial.
Right?
No? Yeah, no, it's create an illuminating title with color and whatever in 3D and 2D space anyway. But it was the very first project first tutorial that I watched where I actually finally felt like I was a real like After Effects user.
Totally.
Because as he's going through, because normally, you know, when I first started, I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. What's a pre-comp?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And so I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, well, now you got to pre-comp that. And he's like, and now we're going to pre-comp this. And I'm like, yes, I kind of know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like right before he does it and stuff. So
I think that's what I'm trying to get at here is like, what are your breakthrough moments, you know? Because like there are sometimes just those tutorials that you're like, oh my God, I just learned something and it's amazing and it's going to make me such a better artist or whatever, you know, and maybe that may not be true. Sometimes that's just a false feeling like of empowerment that's not real. But yeah, I've had a few of those and like, of course, Video Copilot, like a lot of those just like blow my mind, you know? But yeah, definitely that MoGraph 212 one had a bunch of those moments and that Gareth Edwards series as well. And then
I'll tell you the Dan Pierce one. You know, that was a big changing moment at NAB.
Absolutely,
you know, it was really good. Like just changing the way you think about modeling, and like he kind of put this thought in my mind about clean geometry.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
And so like while I was working on this project this week, I had to do a lot of modeling and like I tried my hardest and you know me, I'm shortcut master. So I'm like, I'll just bool it. You know? And so I told myself I wasn't going to bool anything. I was going to create circles, you know, where circles needed to be, and I wasn't going to bool anything. I was going to make it really clean geometry.
It's good to put those constraints on yourself when you're like doing kind of a new project. Every new project I do, I really hope to learn something new, you know. I know
how to cut a hole in a thing now.
Yeah, without using bools.
Without using bools.
That's rad. That's awesome. Yeah. No, I mean, and getting back to Ash Thorpe's Learn Squared stuff, watching that UI and data design one, the most mind-blowing thing was, I think, like class 3 or 4, he goes into Illustrator, and I've like never touched Illustrator, honestly, other than to like get in, you know, bring in assets into After Effects. Like I'm terrible about both Illustrator and hilariously Photoshop. I suck at Photoshop. Really. I whenever I have to do a Photoshop thing, I go into After Effects.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
See, I actually find I find that After Effects, I like the way After Effects does certain things a lot better. Yeah. You know?
I mean, it is
versus Photoshop.
It's definitely weaker if you're working on a single image for a long time. Yeah. You know, that's what Photoshop's designed to do. But for the things that I have to do, I basically get away with cheating it with After Effects most of the time. Yeah. I know Photoshop okay.
Just do it in After Effects and then export as a PSD.
Exactly. Make it look like you did it in Photoshop. That's brilliant for if you have to pass it off to another Photoshop guy.
Right.
Anyway, so
that probably won't work.
No, that won't work. But yeah, with this third class that was on Illustrator, he showed his process for basically creating all of these little ideas and design elements inside Illustrator, and like he used it as almost a drawing board, but because everything's snapped to this grid, it all looks so clean and orderly and like has this design language. And so he would create these little ideas, and then just show how to take those small ideas. And like Illustrator has some really interesting tools, basically like the cloner in Cinema 4D, but in some ways better. Like there's like you can take a circle, like you can have a pattern as a brush, and the brush can be cloned around the circle, but then it combines in these interesting algorithms that you wouldn't expect, and you create these very complex looking shapes and patterns. And then of course you can bring that into Cinema and extrude it, and or have Illustrator wrap that kind of thing. And I've literally seen one of Beeple's breakdowns that does just that, and it looks amazing. So he goes from Illustrator wrapping this complex looking thing and then bringing that into Cinema, extruding it, and messing with the depth a little bit, like extruding to various depths and then rendering in Octane, right? And the end result is this incredibly amazing looking transparent sci-fi looking thing, and the effort is pretty minimal. Like I really love these tools that allow you to create all this crazy complexity, just allowing the computer to do what computers do, which is assist you in making craziness.
Totally.
So I think that's my tutorial rant there.
That's a good rant.
Yeah, thanks.
That's a good rant. Let's talk Octane.
Okay, cool.
Because we always talk Octane.
That's what we do.
So texture stacking. You had a chance to mess with texture stacking this week.
I did.
And you were like kind of like texting me as you were doing it.
I was like, it works.
Super excited.
Yeah.
So like David works on a PC.
Yep.
Which is good for you.
Good for you. I can do things you can't do. Haha.
Yeah. Right now.
Yeah.
And so we haven't been able to check out the texture stacking, but he was able to work with it this week. So tell me a little bit about it.
I don't even know how much there is to say. For those of you guys don't know,
like with Cinema 4D, standard Cinema 4D, you can stack textures on top of each other that have like alpha channels and stuff like that.
Right.
And you can't do that in like V-Ray or Octane. Until now,
right.
He just added the ability in order to stack textures on top of each other, and that is, in my opinion, mega cool. That's like a big game changer right there.
Totally.
And it makes it way easier to transition over from standard renderer to Octane.
Yeah, it
because you don't have to
more
use these crazy mix materials anymore.
Exactly. It behaves much more like you would expect. What was the previous rule? Was it one polygon equals
one image per polygon or something?
Something like that. Dave would know. Yeah. Dave's gonna be really mad at us because I should just look up his tutorial right now because he taught me all about alphas and all that. But anyway, now you can just literally have what I did was I just very simple, like I've downloaded a bunch of these textures from Polygon. That's the one with the two eyes.
Which, by the way, I sent an email to them to see if they wanted to be a sponsor of the show.
Oh, cool. That's great.
I haven't heard from them.
Well, hopefully they do.
I just told them, I said, not sure if you're interested, maybe trading like a membership for some free advertising time. I don't know.
Totally.
So anyway.
Yeah,
haven't heard back.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just took a leaf and it, had a, alpha, pre-baked alpha, and so I set that up as one texture on a plane, and then I took a different leaf and set that up, and then I just put them over top of each other like you would do in Cinema.
And it did work with UVW mapping.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So that's the thing I don't understand, and maybe
I thought he said something that it didn't work with that. But
it literally says that on the forum, on the Octane forum. Amit says like it doesn't work with UVW mapping, so I may very well just not understand the different mapping types well enough, or whatever. But I took like a plane and I did it with UVW, and then a cube, and then a figure. So all those were set to UVW, and it seemed to work with all of these.
Now,
but
was UVW, was it UVW on your texture tag as well?
Do you mean like in Octane system versus Cinema system, or
like the Cinema 4D material tag or whatever? Was that one set? Because I know whenever you throw something on there, it now like defaults to like spherical or something. Was it set for spherical or was it set for UVW?
I'm pretty sure it was set for UVW. Let me just real quick look, because like I sent you those images, right, where my screen captures. Let's see.
Oh boy. Don't crash your machine.
No, I'm not going to pull up Octane. I'm just actually looking at the screenshots I sent you. Texture stacking? There it is. Texture stacking. Okay, so let's see.
So with the texture stacking, like the one thing that doesn't work is displacement.
Right.
So you can't use displacement with the texture stacking, but you can use bump map. That's correct?
Yeah, so the bump map and normal map worked great, but the second I had two displacements, or even one of them had a displacement, the second you stack, it would just get wiped out. It would just go down to 0. So that did not work. But here, you can check out my still right here. And I mean,
I can check it out.
You can check it out.
You guys can't.
No, yeah. But Matt knows things, so you can tell me, like, that looks like UVW mapping to me, right? Or wait, this is the wrong still.
Yeah, that's UVW mapping.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Sorry, that's not the right image. I'm an idiot. There you go.
That's all right.
That's the right image.
Texture stacking. Bear with us.
Yeah. As we get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, it's UVW mapping.
Yeah.
The projection on it is UVW.
Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
on that figure, you can see you got a bunch of leaves, and they're overlapping leaves. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
man, that is rad.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for when he actually releases that for Mac. You know?
Totally.
I'm going to buy an external GPU.
In the meantime, I'm just going to gloat. And also gloat about the fact that you have to buy an external GPU, because that's more expensive.
Yeah. I don't know. Every day. It's an everyday, like, I'm about to pull the trigger, but then I hold back.
Yeah.
You know, today. Because I'm just so nervous about, like I was looking at a keto box or a Kiko box or something like that, and I don't know if it'll work with the 980 Ti, but then I have to buy a 980 Ti, and then I was like, well, maybe I'll buy just a 970 so that I can have something working on the side, blah, 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 you know, and then it's like, well, will it fit in the box? And then if I buy the box, will it have enough power? Do I need to buy a external PSU? Blah, blah, blah.
Totally.
And then I'm like, this is too much to think about. You know, this is everything. This is the whole Metaball at X Particles Houdini thing all over again. If it's not fast, then I don't want to even deal with it.
I mean, I feel that exact same way, and that's kind of goes back to that solo artist thing. Like, we're trying to make everything in the image, not just one really specific thing, and we don't have time to sit there in incredibly complex software and learn just how to make the rain droplets on the brim of some CG character's hat for every day for the rest of our lives or whatever.
Yeah,
we're trying to do everything ourselves. So
yeah.
we're reaching for those tools that are easy to use. I'm reaching for Grayscale Gorilla Transform. I'm reaching for, you know, X Particles, all these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it helps that other people that we know those tools too, so we can ask.
Yeah, totally. So Octane also now, I'm not sure if you noticed this, it limits you to 5 unlocks before you have to email them.
Okay.
So like, which really sucks if you're, if like, say, you're working at home and you're working at an office and you're using that license where you just unlock it before you go home, and then you'd unlock it after you're done working at home, and then you go back to work. And
so you're saying like you're switching back and forth. You've got one license
like,
and
this
you're
is
switching
kind of what
machines.
I used to do. I would, you know, I'd be at work and then I'd have to take some work home with me, so I'd unlock my license.
And there's like an hour wait time, right?
Yeah. Well, there's an hour wait time after you deactivate, or no, after you activate it again.
Gotcha.
So you can deactivate it, then you reactivate it.
Oh, okay.
And then if you deactivate it, wait, I don't know, it's something like
I think I understand what you're saying. So,
but anyway, so you can't deactivate and then reactivate. You can only do it 5 times before you have to email them and say, hey, I need some more unlocks or something, which really
don't
sucks.
like that system.
I know. It's like,
I wasn't aware of this, but that sucks.
So like if I'm switching over from my Mac side to my PC side, you know,
I mean, this is supposed to be a floating license.
I have to deactivate and then reactivate. I know, it's stupid.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it was a floating license.
Yeah.
It should be a floating license.
That is horse crap. Luckily for
So
me, I
that
have bought 2 licenses. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Very nice.
yeah, I've got 2. And I only have now I've got 2 PCs that would work nicely with it. So, but yeah, I don't have to switch it really. So
Lucky you.
lucky me. Huh.
I've only got one, like a poor person.
Like a poor person.
So you've been playing with real displacement.
Yes, that. I was going to bring that up too, and you beat me to it. So I
website called real-displacement-textures.com.
I started geeking out real hard about this yesterday with you. Yes. And like sending you depth maps and stuff.
So cool.
Okay.
So the thing with real displacement that you were telling me is that, so you sent me one from Polygon.
Yeah.
So take a look at this displacement map.
So Polygon is great because it has all of these displacement maps for most of their textures, which is like a huge, that's why I got on the Polygon train, because that's a huge plus compared to something like, textures.com or whatever, where they don't have that, right?
Yeah, they're just images.
Yeah, exactly. So like they've got the normal maps, they are set up to be physically accurate shaders right out of the gate. But the thing is, I'm pretty sure the displacement is, I'm very sure the displacement is based on the image. So you were saying if you were to create a displacement map, it's based off of the original image.
I bet you anything the normal maps are too.
Yeah,
exactly. Because you can create normal maps in the new Photoshop, that just the last update of Photoshop or whatever, the 2015. You are able to create bump maps or displacement maps or normal maps in Photoshop based on the image.
Yeah, and that's what.
So they're not real,
they're not true displacement map. So yeah, I mean that's what people would do in Crazy Bump and in Quixel is some really good algorithms for Photoshop that apparently do that really well. And bitmap to material is the one that Chad Ashley was telling me is super amazing. That's from Substance Painter / Designer. It's called bitmap to material. Apparently it's real good at making
I've checked out
those.
their stuff.
Yeah,
that looks awesome.
It does look awesome. That's a total different aside, but I have a crap load of tutorials waiting for me on Substance Painter and on 3D Coat, because those two are really cool looking texturing programs that, they look amazing. Anyway, so the thing is, it's generated from that original image, but then with real displacement, this guy has gone and done actual 3D LiDAR scans. So the displacement maps are not smudgy and not guesswork. They're not completely accurate
at all.
So exactly, they're not blurry at all. The cleanliness, it's like night and day when you compare these displacement maps. So and the idea is that you're recreating the actual 3D scan in Octane. Yeah. You're recreating...
And, like if you throw one of these kind of blurry displacement maps or whatever into Octane, you'll sometimes get these like super pokey outy, like spots.
Totally.
Or like sucked in spots or something. Totally. It's not 100% clean, even if you jump up your resolution to 4000 by 4000. But with this stuff, that's because it's blurry. But with the real displacement stuff, it is so crisp. Like when you sent me that image, I was like, holy cow, this just looks like a black and white depth mat.
It does. It looks like something that was rendered in 3D. And I was playing around with it last night and creating some really cool images of just rocks.
It was insane how realistic it looked. It looks super realistic. Just throwing a displacement map on there.
Yeah, exactly. And the other cool thing is on the site they tell you how to get the most realistic displacement. Like they recommend the centimeters that you should have the displacement extruded to, basically. And also like they'll tell you something like it's 260 by 7. So like if you had a square that's 260 by 260, then you would want your displacement pushed out 7 centimeters, right?
Cool.
So they tell you how to get the physically accurate original scan look or whatever.
That is super cool.
Really cool. So
now it's not a monthly thing.
Okay, so the price is expensive. Package. It's a 25 texture package, but keep in mind these are 8K textures. They give you
very cool.
And I'm using the 8K displacement. So they use 8K displacement, then they've got obviously the color, and then The normal, it's interesting. They say don't use the normal if you're going to use displacement.
Interesting.
Because the normal is just like a substitute. They do have a bump map that adds some extra little details, micro details in there that I ended up mixing down somewhat because it was looking too crazy.
Too crazy,
too crazy,
awesome, or
awesome.
too crazy
No,
bad.
Too crazy bad. And then they've got a glossy map that goes in the specular material.
Okay.
So that will kind of limit how the specular is acting, I guess.
Right.
And they've got a roughness map, so that goes in the roughness channel. And they actually just tell you, they have an image on there with Octane and Cinema 4D, and they show you where everything goes.
This is specifically made for Octane?
It's made for a bunch of things, but they are aware enough to, demo it in Octane. They even have a little video tutorial that shows you how he sets it up in Octane.
Very cool.
So yeah, they've made that really clear cut, which is great. And yeah, it was very simple.
How much was it?
Okay, that's right. That's what I was getting to. So it's $141 per pack of 25 textures. So if you were to buy both volumes 1 and 2, it would run you close to $300.
Yeah.
But, if you're doing like product work or just wanting really realistic surfaces, and this could be a super sweet way to go.
Find the one client who will pay for it and buy it.
Exactly.
Then reuse the crap out of it.
Exactly.
I'm thinking rocky texture.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you're like, rocky texture. That's exactly what I want to. Yeah, I've got this perfect tool for rocky texture. Thank you, client.
And then they're like, we don't really like that rocky texture.
You're like,
but that's the one
I've got. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, as far as realism goes, it's very hard to beat that.
Yeah, it's definitely something I would recommend checking out.
Yeah, so I'm gonna play around with that a lot more.
Cool.
And I was doing that with some Octane fog as well, and it was surprisingly like the fog did not cause a big render hit, which that might be new. Maybe they really improved that in Octane 3, because I haven't done any fog since it was in alpha. And so it seems like, it wasn't causing a big render hit, which was rad.
I don't know.
Displacement itself was causing a bit of a render hit, like with these 8K displacement, materials or whatever, like that is going to slow some stuff down.
I bet.
But I've got 3 cards, and it was, it was taking like 3 minutes per frame, 3 or 4 minutes per frame, which is not great, but not horrendous.
Yeah. Dude, my, oh, no, they were only taking like 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah. But if you're doing a big animation,
yeah, that's true. I mean,
that's all right.
I'm pretty used to rendering things for days on end.
Yeah.
When I need to. Yeah. I mean,
have you used the cloud service yet?
No. Yeah.
It'd be interesting to try out.
Is that out already?
Yeah.
Really?
It's live.
Wow.
Yeah. I've just never used it or heard of anyone using it.
Cool. Yeah.
This point with Octane is too fast.
Yeah. I'm like, I've already got my render farm right here, people.
Yeah, right.
But yeah.
That's why I have the second license of Octane.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. Weren't you telling me that somebody was telling me that it's like allegedly like $25 a month for unlimited rendering? Is that a bunch of crap? I think
that wasn't me.
I think that was Dave. I think he said that, and if he didn't, I'm sorry, Dave. But
we're gonna blame it on Dave.
It sounded really sketch. Like, that doesn't sound real. Like,
no, I think, I don't know. The only thing that I heard was that they were coming up with monthly license cost for Octane render. Like,
gotcha.
Some cheaper, instead of buying the license outright, they were going to do a monthly thing.
Gotcha.
And that was what one of the representatives said in the Reddit post.
I see.
I don't know.
Cool.
So, yep. All right. We've been doing this for like almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's about time to wrap it up.
Yeah, totally.
I'm going to an EJ Hats and Pants party next week.
Oh, yeah.
On Wednesday. He actually lives relatively...
He will now be closer to me than he will be to you.
Yeah, I'm pretty angry about that.
Hey, are you going to Half Res?
I would like to go to every conference. Money, not an object. I really want to. Like, it's just that it's only a day.
Yeah, it's only a day, and like Dave and I have been talking about it, and we found some like super cheap flights for like $130 round trip.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know. We may go to half res.
Yeah.
I think you should go.
I would like to go. It just seems like it's going to be over so fast. Like, I want to party for a week like at NAB, you know?
No, man, that's too much.
Too much for you guys?
Too much party.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, unless Maxon
I did
is
start
paying
to
for
get, like... I started to get such intense, like, neck cramps, and that's not actually a thing that happens to me. Like, I'm usually a pretty relaxed person, but because I was having to intensely talk to so many people and explain my life story or whatever, I started just like really cramp up, and I was like, man, I'm in constant pain right now, and I don't want to talk to any of you guys. I want to go home and go to bed in my hotel. Yeah,
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's real funny. But no, you should go.
I should go.
Because we're thinking about it. Like, I almost pulled the trigger on buying tickets. That was another text message that I sent to Dave that he didn't answer.
Oh, really?
I'm like, hey, I found these for $137. I want to book it right now.
Yeah.
It was only going to be like $270 for both of us to go, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And so then we just have to get a hotel for a night or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. That would be a much cheaper experience.
I mean, it's not till like 6 o'clock at night. You just basically fly in the morning, you know, early in the morning, go see a bunch of the have you been to Chicago?
I have been a couple times specifically for Boyd Tinsley, who's the violinist from Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, okay.
He was like on tour. I didn't really get to go around the city and do that much.
The museums are incredible.
Sweet.
I love the museums in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So like just the little triad of the museum, the planetarium, and the aquarium.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's where it's at.
Sweet.
I don't know. Do that in the morning, go to half res, and then fly out the next morning.
Yeah.
It's only a day.
Sweet.
Anyway.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
We're thinking about that.
That's great.
So yeah, we got a few links for you. All the stuff that we've been talking about, we'll put it in the links. And then I've got a video of the Hank creation from Finding Dory, the octopus.
Cool.
That I'm throwing in the links as well.
That sounds rad.
You guys check it out. It's a really cool breakdown of it. And then Sean McCoy, who was on the show earlier in the year or whatever, his Kickstarter that we've talked about. We've only got 1 day left on it. Yeah, they've already hit their goal of 15,000. I think they're up to 50,000, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. And I just found this out. Anthony Birch, the guy who is actually who created the game, who is, I guess, partnering with Tuesday Night Games, he was the lead writer of Borderlands 2.
Sweet.
And he works at Rocket Jump right now.
He works at Rocket Jump?
Yeah.
Oh my god. That was on my list of. So we only got like halfway through the things that I had written to talk about. One of them was favorite podcasts, Rocket Jump. They stopped their podcast, but yeah, they had a Face Rocker podcast. I've been following Freddie Wong's team since forever. I've seen like everything they've ever done, and I'm totally nerd about it. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, he was a big influence too on compositing stuff.
Me too. Yeah.
The Flower
Warfare. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite videos he ever did.
Them and Corridor Digital. Have you seen Corridor
Digital?
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I was really angry at NAB because they
Corridor
presented.
Digital, I think they taught me how to use Buju.
Yeah.
Or introduced me to Buju.
Yeah, well, screw Buju. PF Track is way better.
I know. You guys say that. I
tried Buju for a little while. But yeah, Corridor Digital, they presented at NAB, and I was so upset because like they're like my super idols, and I would have geeked all over them or whatever. I mean, I got to meet Andrew Kramer, so I'm not complaining. But like they're on my wish list of people that I want to meet, and
Yeah. We got to see Freddie Wong last year.
That I'm also incredibly jealous of. Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw Freddie Wong last year, and then it's so funny, he's presenting at the Adobe booth, and then like 3 or 4 years before when I went, Freddie Wong was there with Brandon.
Yeah.
And they were presenting at this stupid little lighting booth. It's like
that's awesome.
Like, yeah, you guys jumped it up quite a bit from there.
Yeah, totally.
So but yeah, so Anthony Birch, he's one of the guys at Rocket Jump.
Cool.
His sister Ashley Birch, who was on Hey Ash, What You Playin'?
Yeah,
she's working there too.
Yeah, the two of them helped out a ton on their most recent Hulu series.
Yeah. Rocket Jump the series,
yeah.
So
which was good.
His game, if you like games and stuff, card games, World Championship Russian Roulette, that's on Kickstarter. So go check that out. As far as the social stuff, we had a bunch of like good social stuff. Oh, and I wanted to give a shout out to David David Brodeur, I think his name is.
Mm-hmm.
He's done some work with Grayscale Gorilla, and I was searching through Imgur this week, and one of his GIFs or something had been taken from his, I don't know if he posted it or if someone else did, but he's been doing this daily render series, which is just absolutely incredible, of like these pulsing like globby
cool.
thingies, and they're incredible. So behance.net/David Brodeur, Brodeur.
Yep.
Really cool looking stuff. And then as far as the social stuff, I'm going to mess up this name so bad. Gaetan D. Simone, I think his name is, at IMGAETAN. He's been sending us lots of cool sketch and tune stuff this week, and it's really cool to see. He said he was inspired by the podcast we did with EJ, and he's been doing all this cool sketch and tune stuff, and that stuff looked really
Is this
good.
the guy that's an amazing character animator, or no?
No, different guy.
Different
I
guy.
think.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's been sending us just a bunch of really cool stuff and giving us shout outs on Twitter and stuff. Really cool. And then, let's see, Sylvian Favre and Maxime Jacquard, I think is how you say their name. They threw up some renders on Facebook. And we shared the post, and they bought Luminous, and they've been using it for some of their renders and stuff, and it looks really, really good. Really
Sweet.
good stuff. Yeah.
That must be cool to see people starting to put out renders with
It is. It's really weird
plugin.
getting like a notification, that someone mentioned you on Facebook. We don't get a lot of Facebook, we get a lot of Facebook likes, but we don't get a lot of Facebook interactions. But I will say, people who message us on Facebook, we get back to almost immediately.
Totally.
It's funny. If you look at our response time on Facebook, it's like within 7 minutes.
You guys are social media freaks.
Dude, I keep it up on I've got 3 computers on my desk.
You're sitting in
and
the
my
control
left
room.
one, my left one is my social media stuff. I've got it up all day.
Sweet.
So, let's see. Brian Sains gave us a review of Luminous. I think it was on one of our ads that we ran, but he said, I'm new to C4D, upgraded from Daz and Octane. Got this plugin yesterday, and it's a real game changer for me. Love Octane, but found it a little clumsy in places.
Wrong. How could you install Octane?
As most people do whenever they first start it.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, where's the spotlight? Which is,
Right.
So he said, this plugin fixes nearly all the issues I had. Top work, fellas. Can't wait to see what you come up with next. Boom.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. And then we got an email from Matt Stone, not Matt Stone from South Park.
South Park.
Yeah, which I thought immediately. I was like,
Yeah.
what? Matt Stone likes our stuff?
That's so cool.
But Matt Stone sent us an email. Hey, guys, thanks for doing what you do is the subject. And the message said, just want to say I enjoy the podcast. So shout out. Hope you're freaking out right now because we're reading your email. I've been listening to you guys more recently since I started taking clients from home instead of working in a studio. I've learned a lot of Octane tips and tricks as well as basic business tips and tricks. So thanks a bunch. I've been wanting to participate more in the Mograph community. So if there's any way I can participate or help with Brograph at all, that would be cool. Here's a link to my work. And Matt Stone is actually going to be our listener artist of the week. You can check him out, www.mattstone.tv. So checked out his stuff. A lot of really good stuff.
His stuff is amazing. You should have him on the podcast because
totally.
A
lot of good, I believe it was NFL stuff.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Really good, incredibly high quality sports graphics.
Yeah, seriously. What's amazing to me sometimes is that we had we've had people who work on some of these really high production stuff, stuff that I would kill to get the work for. And it's okay, I'm glad that we're influencing you because really we should be looking up to you guys.
Exactly. Exactly.
We're not getting the big work and stuff like that. I don't know.
I feel the same way.
That's super cool. So yeah, Matt Stone's our listener artist of the week. The Brograph artist of the week is Matt Smithson from Man vs. Magnet. that you showed me?
Yeah, I showed you guys this. He and his wife are amazing 2D animators. A lot of it's just hand animated, but he also uses After Effects and a little bit of cinema. One kind of cool story that I have real quick about that is that I was gonna do like this passion project with my fiance Emma, and we were like kind of gonna do like an animated version of one of her favorite poems. And so I just quickly Googled like motion poems or whatever, and one of the first things that came up, which we're going to link to too, was this beautiful animation. It was completely hand animated in Photoshop.
That's
to this
crazy
poem.
to me.
It's crazy
that
to
it
me
was
too.
Hand animated in Photoshop.
Yeah, the theory and design that knowledge that you have to make something like that happen, and the transitions in it are just beautiful. I was just blown away by it. I was like, wow, this is the coolest motion poem I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then like a year later, these people in Charlottesville, which by the way is the middle of nowhere for MoGraph work, contact me. And these are the people that I was saying I went out to dinner with, and we were talking about the X particles and splashes and all that. I realized that this is his work. And so it's like really small MoGraph world, right? So I was just like, wow, I'm gonna be best friends with you now.
That's kind of like with Already Been Chewed. We didn't know that Already Been Chewed is in Dallas and literally like 10 minutes away from my house.
Totally.
So,
It's weird the people living under rocks in your own hometown or whatever.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So, they're Matt Smithson is the Brograph Artist of the Week. Matt Stone is the Listener Artist of the Week. And that's about all we got for this week.
Sweet.
A really good episode, like 2.5 hours.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we took a break in there somewhere, so maybe some of that'll come out. Yeah.
I had to take a break so I could tuck my kid in.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, make sure to rate us on iTunes. We didn't get any new reviews this week. And remember, we're running that big contest for the free t-shirt. So you got till the end of the month to leave us a review, and we will pick a person at random and send them a free t-shirt. So rate us on iTunes, leave a review.
Get on with a different username and write a review, because I want a whole wardrobe full of Brograph t-shirts, and I don't have a gray one. So
okay, we'll send you one.
Okay, no. No, I'm gonna win that contest. No, I'm gonna win the contest.
Oh, okay.
I'll buy it. Yeah, I'll buy it too.
So, let's see. Also, subscribe to the podcast, and if you want to just skip the whole review process and just buy the t-shirt, you can either go on Amazon or you can find it on our website. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. No Brograph, no MoGraph.
Yep.
And we're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube and Brograph.com. And that's all Dave has written on his notes.
That was a really good spiel
that I
there.
steal from.
Yeah, you did it good. I'm totally a noob at podcasting, so I'm just like,
Dude, it's like, this is our 38th episode.
I thought it was the 39th episode. Is it 38?
No, I put the wrong episode.
Oh, you did it wrong. Okay, well, 38. That's great.
So, yeah.
You guys are incredibly consistent, like the weekly thing. Like most podcasts don't do that, so props.
Really?
Yeah.
The thing is, Dave was doing a previous podcast called Urban Coffee. Go check out his old podcast.
I will do that, actually.
I was actually on a few episodes of his podcast. Yeah.
What was it about? Was it just like talk about drones and technology and technology?
It was everything.
Okay.
Like they had different segments, but mostly it was like politics.
Oh,
like,
really?
If you know Dave
yeah.
is such a politic guy, and I sometimes I just can't stand when something comes out because he loves poking the bear on Facebook.
Right. Yeah. He's definitely an instigator. Yeah.
So he would do these political show with his friend Seth, and it was fun. Anyway, so go check out Urban Coffee.
I'm excited to do that. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on the podcast, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.
It's been a pleasure.
So, you'll be back here in a couple weeks.
I will.
If you
guys didn't decide that I failed super hard at this.
No, you did great.
Okay.
I mean, come on, dude. It's 2.5 hours and we still didn't get to everything.
That's true. We got literally like halfway through my list of crap I wanted to ramble.
So just save that until the next time.
I will. Yeah.
So, you'll be back here in a couple weeks. I'm going to Disneyland and Hawaii, and hopefully I'm not attacked while I'm in Disneyland.
Attacked in what way?
Did you hear about the alligator?
No.
In Disney World?
No.
Dude, some 2-year-old got attacked by an alligator and like drug into the lake.
Is the 2-year-old alive? Or
No.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it is awful.
That's really terrible.
Disney needs to get sued over that.
Okay.
Like seriously bad press for them.
Dang.
Anyway, maybe that's too
hopefully
depressing
you survive
for us to
the
end on. I'm actually going to cut that out.
No, just leave it in.
No. So David will be on the show
Yeah.
here in a couple weeks. I'm going to Happy World of Disneyland and
Nothing bad can happen.
Yeah, nothing bad can happen. And going to Hawaii. Going to go visit my folks.
It sounds awesome.
And I was going to say, I know we got a couple listeners in Hawaii. I'm going to be in Oahu. So if anyone wants to meet up or something, maybe hang out.
Do it.
You know, get a drink or something. I don't really drink, but I like Coca-Cola. So
you can drink your alcohol and get plastered while Matt drinks some Coke.
Yeah. Yeah, you can drink your sour beers.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to meet up or something, send me an email, brograph@brograph.com. If you have any questions, send us an email at brograph@brograph.com. So in the meantime, I'm Matt Milstead.
I'm David Ariev.
And thanks for having us, and we'll see you next time.
Bro out.
Later, bros.
It's pretty good, I guess. Brograph.com, an online resource for learning critical components of Cinema 4D and After Effects, specifically catered to help you prevail as a motion graphic designer.
What's up, bros? Welcome to another Brograph motion graphics tutorial.
We give you professional time-saving tips, shortcuts, and lessons that help give you an edge over your fellow designers. Not only this, but our new Brograph Talks help you in your file management, hardware configuration, and client relations.
I love projects that scare me. When our art director comes to us and asks for something that I had never done before, man, it gets me pumped.
Join us for live sessions, check out our crazy Cinema 4D experiments, or just watch our Fun with Brograph series, where we show you practical applications for techniques learned in previous tutorials. Do this from the beginning, and your client is going to respect that, and they're going to respect you, and they're going to respect your time. Subscribe today and get automatic updates on the latest tutorials, tricks, tips, and inspiration brought to you by industry professionals Dave Koss and Matt Milstead, all with a slight dash of dry humor peppered in. Real nice banana.
Brograph.com, your source for tutorials that will help you thrive in the motion graphics industry. Don't just play around with Cinema 4D and After Effects, master it, and make money by becoming indispensable at your workplace.
We don't care how you get here, folks. Just get here. Subscribe now to Brograph Tutorials. It's pretty good, I guess.